I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning.
Good morning.
Okay, we'll call the meeting to order. First, we have the approval of the agenda. Is there any additions, corrections, or deletions? Okay.
And also
motion.
move to approve the agenda then.
Okay.
Second.
Got a motion and a second to approve the agenda. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. In your same packet, you have the minutes from last week's meetings. Last week's meeting, everybody have a chance to review those?
If there's no questions or issues with it, I'd make a motion to approve the minutes from last Monday's board meeting.
I'll second that.
Okay, got a motion and a second to approve the agenda, or the minutes. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Go down to new business. First item on the agenda is secondary roads. Dave?
Good morning again, Dave.
Morning,
Morning.
Dave.
Morning, Dave. Nice to see everybody. Let's see here. Pup quotes. I contacted Brady, who's now run by Larry Pinegar. He's the son-in-law of Larry Brady. He bought the company from Larry. In 2010, we purchased a Brady pup with everything except tires and wheels, which are a little over $3,000 to put tires and wheels on it for $28,600. His quote this year now in 2015 is $33,500. I think it might be a little bit better, but obviously it's not that much better. I think it's just inflation. At the same time, back in 2010, Sioux Falls Truck and Trailer quoted us a Cornhusker brand, and it was $33,040 back in 2010. That's why we went with the Brady in 2010. Plus, along with a local vendor, one of our local haulers uses these Bradys and gave us a good send-off on it. We've got two of these Bradys right now, and I've been well pleased with them, and their parts availability is really good. It'd be nice to stick with the same thing. I didn't get any extra quotes, so I just felt it would kind of be
Where's Brady from?
a point.
And they make them there?
They make them there. I think it's kind of a welding shop, more or less. So, I think he said he was out to April to get them, so we must have a wee bit of a backlog.
Is this without tires too?
That's without tires too, yeah. Yeah, the rims are, I think,
Tires and
$112, and the tires, $273. We buy first line tires, we buy some Chinese-made tires to put on it. We're using just regular 11R 22.5s on this. We've got one with, the first one we got, we used super singles to burn up the front tires after we ran them out on the trucks. Once they got beyond the steer axle tires, at that point where we felt they needed to come off the front of the trucks, we put them on that and we run them out there. But if you have a flat tire with that one, you're kind of done. Because, with one of these, if you have a flat tire, you can keep going, limp it in, and get to where you're.
So how do you do that then? Do you take the tires down there? Or do they bring the box here?
He's got some roll-off tires, but yeah, that's what they do. It's sitting on some, kind of clunky tires right now there, and so we'll just change them out, put them on.
Okay.
What did you say tires would cost from this?
$273 for the tires and $112 for the rims. That's the latest price we've been paying. That's those Samson tires. They're not good rims for being good rippers or anything.
4 100.
8 of them.
Is it common that they're sold without tires and rims, and the logic behind that is what, at least the tire can vary so much, but can the
Yeah.
rim vary that much?
I suppose if you want aluminum, because most of the private haulers, they'll put aluminum on with the weight in it, and we use steel. And there's a story on that.
So they're typically sold that way?
Yeah,
And then you
and
just,
actually with us, we get that state price on those tires, so we get them cheaper than anybody else can buy them, so it's probably a good deal.
So do you buy those now in Des Moines too?
The tires?
Yeah.
No, we got them in stock.
Okay.
You said the last time it was 28,000 something.
28.6. Cornhusker was 33 something or other. I was talking to one of the mechanics the other day, and I think I might have told you about that he has the vendors for the components he needs, so when it comes time for him to re-brake them, or re-axle them, or re-bearing them, or re-hub them, or whatever he's doing, when that stuff wears out, because there's a lot of wearable items, he can go bypass Brady and go directly to the vendor and get them. He doesn't have to go through a middleman to pick up the parts. He's appreciative of that.
Does this box have a liner or stuff coating? You guys spray that in afterwards or what?
We put liners in, those plastic ones.
Mhm.
What's that cost?
Can't tell you.
Mike.
They'll wear them worth it though.
Mike does that in the shop, doesn't he?
Yeah, they're really worth it. They keep going in the winters much better, get the freezing quite so bad and stuff. The loads will slide out a lot easier, they don't
Yeah.
hang up quite so bad.
Less wear and tear on the
Less
box and the
wear and tear
hoist.
on the box, yeah. You can haul riprap and it doesn't beat your box up quite so bad.
Mhm. Any other questions for Dave regarding the gravel trailer, the gravel trailer quotes?
Well, it looks like a good bid. I do wish we'd have got more than one bid, I guess, but,
If you'd like,
That's-
I'd probably go back to Cornhusker again.
yeah,
Is Cornhusker heavier than Brady?
It could be.
I don't know, it seems
They're-
like, what
I
I know,
think-
I think they're usually their stuff's a little heavier. so.
They've got a pretty good reputation,
Mhm.
as far as, I think they're a good outfit.
yeah, I've seen their name on a lot of semi-trailers,
Range.
mostly in the agricultural field.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I've seen some of their pups, and I like the looks of them.
Mhm.
Actually, the grain trailers are actually lighter, they're all aluminum.
Uh,
And-
Have you had any trouble with the Brady's at all? I mean,
No, we've really,
that the construction between the two of them would make a difference as far as,
I don't think so. We've been really pleased with it. The Brady's pull real nice, they're well-built, and they're relatively light, all aluminum except for the tub and the subframe, those aluminum box.
Well, actually, having said that, it's probably pointless if that's where we're gonna get our other quote, because just looking at their quote was at that amount in 2010 already, and
you would assume that it could probably be
up, yeah.
as well.
Are they pretty much the only two providers you're aware of?
They were the
don't
only
know.
two that I could find. I found one from Hawkeye Truck that in 2008, but they were in the $30-some thousand range, the low 30s in 2008. And they didn't have that vendor, so they went to Sioux Falls Truck and Trailer to get this quote for me last time. And I was kind of having trouble finding enough quote. Some of the guys like Arcadia, for instance, they manufacture their own steel and whatnot. We haven't gotten to that point. I was kind of teasing Mike about it, but he doesn't seem to be real interested in it.
It'd take a little time.
They make their own?
They make their own, yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
Moonshine used to
They-
make all of them.
Well, it sounds like Brady does too, though.
Yeah.
Or- and-
Yeah.
And Cornhusker does, so I mean.
I don't know who does it now, but that's
Yeah.
who used to make them for Arcade.
They've got a
But I'm
pretty
sure
good
with
patent,
Brady,
and
it's a
we bought
series of
two of
guys, not one
their
guy.
used ones.
True, right.
Uh,
I don't know much about those, I really don't.
A lot of welding.
Yeah, I'm a little bit like Neil, I like to get more than one quote on just about anything, but.
How many you would have, one or two?
Well, I'd like one now and maybe one later, and after the end of the year. I put two in the budget, had a little money left in this budget to where we could swing it on this budget.
What was the deal, were we gonna retire any, or?
It's the
Well,
one that's got a bad
we've got
frame.
one of those old
The
ones
frame
from
is
years ago.
cracked.
The frame is cracked,
Mhm.
back where the hinge on the box is, it's got a vertical crack coming up. And there is some concern that that could let go, and the frame's lost some section just due to rust. And we don't think it, wouldn't be any problem if you were dumping in the yard, and the trailer happened to lean, if you're going down the road, we certainly wouldn't want that to happen. So kind of, it'll get sidelined except just for stockpile, but stockpile is kind of a big part of our operation, so that's why we want to.
So there is some residual use out of it?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
Is there any way Mike could kind of beef that up just for safety reasons a little bit or not?
Where it's at, yeah, I think you'd have to get in and do a pretty severe slicing and dicing to
Yeah.
do it, yeah.
So it isn't worth it. When it goes, it goes.
Yeah, I think once it goes, we probably wouldn't be out any more money just to fix it up or part it out.
Mhm.
Can't remember what we had in those money. It was somewhere around $8,000 or something.
Well, you can always use the tires and stuff off of it.
Yeah.
Same size tires.
Yeah, same size tires,
Yeah.
same size rims.
Yeah.
Can you get a frame for this? Can you keep the box?
You'd have to make it. This is one that they built Arcadia limestone
Oh.
in-house. So, yeah, you could if you'd make it, which we could.
The box is okay?
Oh, it's
I'm sure it's beat up.
beat up, it's got some age on it, but yeah, it still holds. They don't have to be real pretty.
It's wishes.
So the only other bid you can get would be from Cornhusker probably.
I would say that'd be the only easy one I could find. It's just, I think it's like anything, it's worth buying something, that's pretty good quality, that doesn't give you grief, that you can get parts for.
Well, there's some advantages to having, do you stock any parts for those on hand?
I think Max does. I couldn't say with all surety, but the parts he stocks are from that truck vendor. He doesn't even go back to Brady, He does stock rims and brakes and pancakes. and
Yeah, that's one thing about
bearings
by
and
having everything the same
all
model.
that stuff, yeah.
You ain't running around for parts.
Yeah, and I don't hear any complaining about the construction of them.
Do you have any Cornhuskers at all?
Well, it's probably not gonna make a difference, but I would prefer that we get another quote anyhow, just for, probably just be like eating comfort food or something like that, but, because maybe we don't need the top of the line like Cornhuskers, because like some companies, they have them, on the road every day, every hour, and a lighter truck is a bigger deal to them than it is to us, but I would prefer to get a second quote anyhow.
Okay, I'll do it.
But it's a board decision. of
I
course.
agree.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Well, covers us a little bit too.
Yeah.
Sure does.
I'll do it.
Okay.
Should be pretty easy. I should just be able to call Sioux Falls Truck and Trailer and just go directly to them.
Good.
Uh,
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah. Summer help discussion. I think there's a good chance, Paul and I have discussed it, but I think we'll probably hire a survey tech this summer, a student. And we've been typically paying them in the $12 to $13 an hour range. And I've had discussions with a fellow about doing the weed spray. We've lost our weed guy again, but I believe I found a high-quality individual to do that would be willing to take the core manual and the right-of-way test, those two tests, and pass it. And I don't really want to say his name at this point, but he seems to be interested. He's an older fella, kind of like me, retired, and interested in some just part-time work. The spraying's pretty limited. It's kind of a come-and-go job. When the weather's right, you can spray, and when it's not, you can't.
Mhm.
So it's probably not the most ideal job from the standpoint of regularity anyway.
I think it's an excellent place to have a part-time person.
Me too.
It wouldn't make sense to have a full-time person there unless they were gonna certainly do other things the rest of the year.
We don't have anybody in-house that's interested, and this is really a part-time job, and this way we'd get the most benefit out of our in-house guys that would be doing all gravel blade roads and doing what they were hired to do. And if it gets windy, you're done with the spraying.
Mhm.
He might be interested in doing some, policing, some sweeping around the shop, and trash can dumping, and things like that. Tends to not get done. That we could supplement some of that work with. That's kind of what we did with one of our ones that we've had in the past that was retired and worked. This one would be in the $16 to $17 an hour range, which is pretty typical of what we paid in the past. I think we actually paid a little more in the past. We paid operator 2 wages in the past.
And with the survey helper, you have enough work that needs to be done to justify that, Dave?
We do, yeah. I think with all that asphalt this summer.
The asphalt, okay.
There's gonna be a lot of staking, a lot of section corners, where the land section corners are. We're gonna have to locate every one of those, reference them, or witness them out very well, so then once the asphalt on top, we can come back and replace that.
Okay.
So you get a college student for that, or?
Yes.
Is that what you do?
Yeah.
That's kind of in that field, or kind of like an intern?
We've done both, just, somebody that's kind of interested in that, somebody that's kind of
Mhm.
technical minded, likes computers and that kind of stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, we've done both. The last few years, we've gotten civil engineering students from Iowa State. This year, we're thinking about one that's just got some really good computer skills, which would make them pretty good surveyors.
So do you have someone in mind for that position, or?
I think we do, yeah. Hasn't firmed up yet, but I'm thinking it's a go. And the last thing is limestone stockpile. Last year about this time, we took some quotations to have some limestone stockpiled in our yard. We've got a little dab left from what we got from Stratford earlier on. I looked over the budget, and we amended the budget, and in that gravel category, what we call 461, we have $970,000. It appears to me that we're going to probably spend in the neighborhood of 859, which would leave us 111 left, which is probably enough to buy about 6,000 tons of limestone hauled in, give or take, depending upon what the price. We got a really good price last year, I think it was 55 a ton. We don't know if we'll achieve that again. There's 4 vendors that we have locally that have trucks that we sent it to last time, and had another fellow come in the other day, and he can put together 4 trucks, and he would like to quote 2, and that'd be okay too. And so that's the way I would call him up, say, we want 6,000 tons delivered to the shop by such and such a date, which I haven't really figured out yet. I think I may have to talk to a few of them yet to see just what they think they can pull off. We'd like it ready for spring hauling, obviously. And they'll be able to get it from the Clare Pit or Martin Marietta, 1-inch roadstone. Both are comparable materials. I think both of them are priced similarly. I think Martin Marietta is a little closer, but you gotta go through Fort Dodge to get it. The Clare Pit's a little further away. You don't have to go to Fort Dodge. I think the prices are about the same, but I leave it up to them where they get it from, so they can work the best deal that they can with the producer.
Actually, I was talking to a guy, a supervisor from Shelby County last Thursday.
Yeah.
They get theirs, they've been railing it to Denison and then
Mhm.
Yeah.
stockpiling up there.
Yeah, I know Denison has their own spur.
But anyway, he was saying that's all they use is limestone now.
Really?
Yeah.
They don't use any gravel?
Nope. I quit using gravel, we went all to limestone.
They don't have really very good gravel sources down there.
That's what he said.
Yeah.
So where do they haul it from?
From Denison.
From Denison, they rail it into Denison.
Rail it to Denison and then.
And then haul
down
it
Then
to
they haul
Shelby.
it down to.
To Shelby
Okay,
County.
I see that way.
the
I think Denison,
representatives.
I think Denison does that too, Crawford County.
Yeah,
Crawford
they do.
County
Yeah,
does,
yeah.
yeah, they've got
Yeah.
a site there.
Crawford's got the site to dump it at.
Yeah,
Okay.
And they can use I think it's the Illinois Central, isn't it, that comes down there?
I'm not sure which rail
Uh,
it is.
But it's a rail we don't have it to, and I think they get it railed in, and what they have into it is roughly what we'd have into a trucked in.
Just following it.
We're closer,
Mhm.
and,
That's gotta be expensive.
talked about that with the Martin Marietta rep the other day, and he said, it's work for you. That wouldn't be-
It's a wash.
They're interested in a unit train, and we don't have a place to put a whole unit train. We don't have a line that goes directly from Fort Dodge. It'd be kind of neat if we did.
Yeah.
With Shelby County, the major portion of their aggregate cost is transportation, so.
It is.
Yeah.
You're much better off having higher grade material than a lot of places, just because of how much you have in the trucking and rail.
For years, Shelby County seal coated their roads with oil and P-rock. Back in the days, they just oiled the roads, so they had an entire system that was basically looked like it was paved. They were all oil roads.
Mhm.
Well, then came the hard decision when oil went up from when it was $25 a ton, went up to $200 a ton. They didn't know what to do because they didn't have the aggregate, and the oil allowed them to maintain those roads without having to add aggregate to it every year. So then they had to take the oil, the dust-free road away from the residents, and it was wiped out.
Mhm.
So yeah, they're certainly a different situation.
Our climate here is tough on seal coats. When you get that hard winter freeze, that just breaks them up like there's no tomorrow.
It is, yeah. I don't know how far we want to go on this limestone thing, because the day of reckoning may come, and we may have to take that away too.
Mm.
It seems to be that,
Well, I think the way we're doing mixing with the gravel is a good deal, because
Stretches it.
that North Timber we tried on, that is altogether different
yeah,
than the second pile. I mean, I'm impressed with
it really does make the difference.
it. It is not, there's not enough limestone to make that white dust needed.
Mhm.
Well, the other thing is when that limestone breaks down, it just gets like cement where you mix the gravel with it, you can still work it.
Yeah, yeah, which offers the
Mhm.
plus the good part of the gravel.
Yeah.
This is not getting into it, we're just, each year we kind of inch ahead a little bit more, you know. I didn't add it up, how much we had, we had 5,000 come in and the 2,000 come in, and I think we probably hauled 1,000 or 1,500 in last year, but I bet we hauled probably 20,000 tons of crushed concrete out, because we pretty well cleaned our piles other than Arcadia, and I'm not sure what we're gonna wind up with. It's kind of our plan again, is to haul down in the Dedham, Willie, that area, to bring in those hills, to bring crushed concrete into them, because we've seen just what you're saying with that is, it did make a marked difference without having to pour a lot of it into it.
How many ton of crushed concrete are we gonna end up with, Dave?
Boy, that's
We have a hell of a pile out there.
yeah,
They haven't started yet?
he called, they're starting just today.
That's what I was gonna say, they're gonna
And
start this
I think we
week.
maybe got like 2,500 from the city. He's thinking there might be 7 or 8 in that pile, but I'm thinking there's more than that. But he says a lot of it depends upon, how much his dirt is buried in there.
Yeah, how
There's a
dense
lot
it
of
is.
big loose chunks, that later stuff we got from the city was really, really nice, big loose chunks, but it doesn't crush down into the tonnage.
Mhm.
And I suppose we maybe have 3,000 tons out in our shop, and probably 3,000 tons in Arcadia too. So if we'd have, say, 10 there, we already got 2, that'd be 12, 3,000 at the shop, 15, 3,000 in Arcadia, maybe 18,000.
But even with the anticipated amount of crushed concrete, you still think we need the limestone in addition to that?
I do, yeah.
Okay. All right.
If we get the right weather conditions, now if it turns out real dry and whatnot, we might want to pull back on incorporating it, but it seems like if you can incorporate it with a little moisture to get it to go in, it really makes a big difference. We had that kind of year last year. Maybe we won't get that kind of year this year. I don't know.
long-range forecast, cool
Okay.
and wet.
Well,
Cool and wet.
sounds like you have a lot of options to take bids for your limestone. How long do you think it'll take to get those bids back?
I think I'll just, just have them back some in and just bring can carry them in or send them by mail, so I do it pretty quick if I get
Okay.
permission to do it. I don't know by next Monday, if I can push it. I'll give them a lot of time, maybe get to the following Friday so I can bring them in that following Monday.
So once again, Dave, the approach would be to contact the transportation firms, the haulers.
Yes.
And then you're not gonna bid your own material.
No.
They're gonna go bid the material. They're free to go wherever they want, as long as you set the spec for the material.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll tell them 1-inch roadstone from Claire or Martin Marietta, which I believe that both materials are quite similar.
Okay.
I suppose you could argue about that one or another, but I think they're quite similar.
Okay.
Service well, they're similarly priced.
I was gonna say, as long as it ain't come from down there.
No, we wouldn't. And the price of it down there is so high anyway.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, that's $10 a ton versus maybe $6.
That stuff down there softer and it breaks up.
And how many bidders do you anticipate might respond?
I'm hoping we could get 4.
Good.
The 3 we had last year, and then this new one that's come to us.
Good.
And so, well, that should be enough competition. Hopefully somebody is,
Mhm.
As long as you can mandate they deliver it when you want it.
Yeah.
Is that the new one?
Okay.
he might be worth a call though, too.
Yeah, I know they're doing some of that.
Yeah. Yeah, but in fact, I think Gene just suggested one that we'd used before. We're gonna push the pile up this time. Last time we had them push the pile up. But there's a couple of these vendors that may not have the loader, or might not work in the best for them to do it. So we'll push the pile up. One way or another, we're gonna have to pay for it anyway. It's
Sure.
It's a quarter, 30 cents is what it's worth a ton, roughly, it's something
Well,
like
being
that.
driven all over, delivered here, you got the equipment here,
Yeah.
the know-how.
And we've got enough room there that if we let it go for a while, we'll still be able to gather it up, push it up.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah, I'd
Yeah.
recommend moving forward with it.
We'll do it. Yeah, I'm not just sure.
You need something on that summer help too?
Never have in the past.
Okay,
I don't know.
Okay.
I do have a question for you. We kind of moved on, it came to me just shortly after, but do we have to post those positions?
Part-time position like that, a while back I posted it, and I had one guy come up and talk to me about it, one of the new fellas, and I discouraged him from applying for it because of it being part-time nature. I'll check, it's not a full-time.
I don't know the requirements on part-time and seasonal, because it's not going to be full benefits or anything,
No,
so.
there's gonna be
It's,
basically no benefits.
it's almost, well, it's not contract labor though either.
No.
So I'd ask John. I don't know if there's any preference that he has to be
Yeah.
considered or not, so
Yeah.
I would.
Probably have to ask Renee, I suppose.
Okay.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
I think it's worth looking into.
I do too.
So we don't just
Hate to-
avoid any.
Hate to do it and find out you did it wrong.
Yeah, well, and we could post it by what it is.
Sure.
It's a part-time weed spray
Yep.
job. And, that's what it is.
Yep.
I think not, but anymore, there's lots of.
And they'd have to go through that training and everything anyway, so I mean,
Mhm.
Yeah.
they get a license for that,
Yep.
personal, not from the,
Personal, and then to buy, they have to have it for the
commercial.
county to buy.
Okay.
And it's gotta be commercial.
It's
Yeah.
commercial,
It's
Application.
roadway pesticide maintenance.
okay.
They have to take 2 tests, corn, and they'll take the
Yeah,
roadway.
the category 6
Mhm.
roadway.
I used to have one.
Did you really?
I just recommend going.
You're
through
interested?
that.
No. I don't wanna go through that testing.
I was looking at the manuals on those
And then you
tests.
gotta follow up every year with so much
Education training, yeah.
Yeah, every 2 years.
Pays
yeah.
better than a supervisor though, Gene.
CIC.
Hmm?
Pays better than a supervisor, you might wanna think that through.
On an hourly basis, it sure does. And winters, it's a long, lonely winter though, this week.
You gotta go south.
Yeah. That costs a lot of money.
Very good, David. Anything else?
No, I'm sure there probably is, but I can't think of it. I'm hoping, you've got some box culverts growing up. You've got 4 box culverts growing up on Old 30. Talked to a couple people about right-of-way that we're gonna need right-of-way from, and I don't think it's gonna be a problem with either one, but we haven't got to the point where we've got a signature on the dotted line yet.
2 of them, Dave?
2 of them, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I was gonna meet with one lady, talked to both of them again last week, and the other person was not feeling well. Couldn't
Yeah.
get out there and see it.
Okay. There's a lot of utilities along there, aren't there?
Yeah, and there'll be 4 box culverts on that one intersection alone, or I guess we call that the Higgins Bridge, but there's 2 bridges and 1 culvert we'll replace there, just going west out of town on Old 30, and then you go another mile up to near another intersection, we've got another one there.
Right, yeah.
Thinking about $360,000 worth. And we'll probably let them open in, this year's project, we'll probably leave them to where they can go through the whole construction season, so they may or may not get built. I think we can, if they get the culverts built, we can pay for stockpiled materials on them.
Would you be bidding them together?
I think so in this case.
'Cause they're on the same piece of
Since
it.
they're grouped together, those 3 are just all within a stone's throw, within
Mhm.
a few hundred feet of each other. And the other one seems to fit pretty well, so they probably would. I think the next bunch we have will probably let them go with some standalones
Are you
maybe.
doing that 290th and Granite one this year? You know where that bridge where they keep taking the railing off?
Oh, yeah, that's, that I hope we get going on as our next batch, yeah. We've got a pretty good batch. We've got another 4 I think we could throw in.
Now, what we're replacing, they're mostly a narrowness issue. I don't think there's a load limit on either of those on Old 30, are there?
One of the ones just got a load limit on it.
Just got a load limit on it?
The most westerly one did.
Okay,
And it's not a huge load limit, but it's still a load limit.
okay.
Kind of width and deterioration.
They're very narrow and
And the
cracking
one-
up.
I shouldn't say that, the one that we call the Higgins Bridge, the one that goes north, that's on Jade, I believe it is, it has a really restricted load limit. Like
Yeah,
9
that one
tons.
was. Mhm.
Yeah, so there's 2 of them with a load limit, one with just cracked, deficient,
Yeah.
probably in the 20s. So it's quite a
But
bit
they're narrow.
narrow.
Okay.
That's kind of what the problem with this bridge is. It's right close to the road. And I think when you turn, there ain't nothing to work with. You may take the railing off. I mean, we replaced that railing
2-3 times a year, every year, I think. So, yeah, we're hoping for a March letting in that, but we probably better have the right of way agreed to at least first, it's a minor deal in both cases.
ISAC came out with a list of every county and all their deficient bridges and all that. Are these on that list then?
Sure they are.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
we're not using federal aid money on them just because of their smallness and size.
Yeah, I think, Neil, I did see they are on there, I think.
I didn't,
And they probably have those.
I don't know, at one time we got a list of them. May not have it right handy here. Don't have it, I guess. Thought I had it.
Yeah, they're,
You had that one map, didn't you? That had the
Yeah, I don't know.
Was that on there?
It's at home, some, yeah, it's on there.
Oh, I got it in here too, if I look for it, but that might take a while.
There it is.
There it is.
I do too have it. 1, 2, right there. All
yeah,
right.
And the one project has got three structures, two structures with it.
Is that West Carroll?
I think one of those little flags on there is kind of hidden, Neil. Let's see, is this
Right.
what you got from ISAC? Oh, yeah, that's them, that's the two.
Those
ones
are the
that
two we're
posted
talking
right
about.
there, yeah.
All right. All right. Okay.
I would almost think there should be three on there, because that other one is old enough to build events in.
Okay, very good. Yeah, I don't know, I got 20-some bridges on here. Oh, I got 21 and a half. Oh, because one was on the county line, that's where I got the half. I couldn't understand half a bridge, but county line one there, yep, okay,
It's the one I'm asking.
yep. All right, that makes sense now. The half bridge didn't make sense at first, but it's on the county, shared with Crawford County.
Well, that's
All right,
pretty neat map, huh?
get 2 more of them off there.
Where'd you get that at?
Is that on, from that NACO
I
website?
filed the link to the county maps on bridges at Yahoo. IowaCounties.org /resources county bridges map.
NACO.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I got mine through, I think maybe, yeah, maybe what Bill Pearson.
maps
Bill
are,
Macross,
yep.
I think.
We made a bunch of copies that day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Do you want to get the,
You gonna make a copy of it?
Oh, I think I've got all the same stuff, but yeah, it's,
well, when I saw that, I thought, well, we need,
all the same.
at some
bunch.
point, we need to kind of prioritize and see which one of these do first, and that's exactly what you're doing here, and you've nailed those two on the whole 30.
Well, that ought to be a pretty competitive bid there on that intersection. You're gonna have all that work in one spot.
Oh, yeah, that
Yeah.
should be just a real
No
we're hoping to
mobilization.
attract Midwest from Minnesota, Midwest contracting from, there's the guys that, that really started all this, that put these in about takes.
Murphy hasn't been good to me, has he?
No, he's focusing on bridges. That Richards we had last year, I believe it was, we were really impressed with him too.
Yeah, because of their proximity and they're on the same road, I think they'd be, probably get better bids if you'd bid those two together, if you can, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, no, it looks like they've got them on there. I see some historic bridges on there. I see one on a dead-end road.
Do we have, you mentioned where these were too small for federal funding, and do we have anything in sight for federal funding that would work
Well,
out for us?
That Homels Bridge that we've always talked about.
Okay,
And then this one right, this dot right here that's the one we've got drawing up right now. Darren just gave me plans on that last Friday, and I haven't looked at it, but we're ready to do that. I think that Homels one will be the next one we'll probably go after. At the same time, you don't see these railroad ones on there because they're not our bridges. So we're gonna have to take them on as a bridge, and we're still interested in that. I don't know, I think we're gonna have to do some more talking about how we might handle that, and if we're gonna have to put a bridge in, this gas tax money comes through, maybe we can move the local funds and cut a lot of the cost rather than doing it with federal aid.
You know, you can get talking about a dead, I went through Denison this weekend, and I see on the south side of town there where they got the rail goes through, they've got those medians in there.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't seen many of those, but that's not gonna work, so if they're gonna force us bridge-wise, but I think that's something here pretty soon in the next couple of months, if we're gonna go out and about and look and talk, we'll have to hash over and decide which way to go.
the Hanlos one would be quite a bit bigger project than that one that's, I think, in Richland Township, wouldn't it?
It would, yeah. Yeah, this one in Richland's a 100-foot slab, and that Homels one's probably gonna be, maybe a 150-foot slab, thereabouts.
I would think that the Hanlos would be a bigger priority, but maybe it's a matter of how the funds come in. I'm sure the Hanlos will take more funding.
It would, and I would agree with you that probably, we took a traffic count on that, and that's running 30 to 40. Tried to take one on this one, but I think it's running 50 to 60. It's
that-
bigger.
Just a heavier traffic bridge.
You gonna try to relocate that road in through there too, or?
Well, that's a good question, if that's gonna increase the cost so much, whether we need a really high-speed road through there, or whether we can do it at that same location, because you're looking at maybe nearly doubling the cost.
Yeah, I
I
know.
don't think it's,
I'm-
for that kind of traffic, it's not worth it.
I agree. I think we need something that'll carry a load. I don't think speed is real important at that point in the road. There's a big hill there, there's all kinds of turns and obstacles. It's not big, yeah, something that'll carry a load is what we need there.
Well, they always have brought, because we always talked about possibly changing that.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Mhm.
for years we've thought about this, but I think really.
Just the topography there, it'd be tough
Well,
to
it's gonna,
change.
yeah, you're right, it'll more than double the cost. of that
It's gonna
project.
lengthen the bridge, it's gonna take a lot of property. It did some estimates a while ago, and it was like $500,000 versus 900 and some thousand.
So why would you prefer to do the Richland one before the Hanlos Bridge, when Hanlos has more traffic? And there's, the alternate route is quite a bit further away for that one as well.
These are probably the two best qualifying ones we
Okay.
got right now, as far as, size and volume.
Federal funds,
And
okay.
that's just, it's just mainly the darn federal funds.
Okay.
Just either one we could spend federal funds on, we could probably spend them here easier, just because it's a pretty straightforward bridge, it's pretty short, there's no right of way. The alignment issue here is the main thing with this one. If we keep the same location, the same alignment, that'll change that and make that more simple.
Sure.
So, yeah, there's not really any other, simplicity is probably
Okay.
the primary reason for going this way. Full well knowing that we're gonna have to go here next, the way it looks, because, that's the Nye Bridge down there, that's the Turner Bridge there, both of them very low traffic,
Mhm.
both of them very expensive.
I hate to say what you should probably do with the
Ooh.
Running Bridge.
Yeah,
Yeah, that Turner Bridge over the Brushy there, that's a big one too.
this
See,
one.
we're not running out of federal bridges yet.
Okay.
No.
All right.
No, we got a few yet.
All right.
But let's get.
Do you want a copy of that, Dave, or?
By the time we get them done, there'll be some more.
I just wanted to kind of make
Okay.
sure it jived with what I had.
Okay.
And it does. Yeah, maybe we'll have a few more. The decisions are not as easy as they were when there was, 50 or 60 of them out there, and they were on paved roads, with a lot of cars on them. It was just like, oh, this is the one that should be first.
Mhm.
That Hanlos Bridge, though, if you widen that bridge as far as the road access on the east side, I mean, that's not a high-speed curve. I mean, it's not a
No.
big deal. It's just basically to get semis across it.
Yeah, they need to make the turn.
Yep.
And if the bridge is wider, it opens that up, and I don't even know if we'd have to do guardrail on that. We could probably be specific with where we put our guardrail
Mhm.
on that to make it less of an intrusion. But, yeah, I think we can make it work. And,
Because it's only a 15-foot bridge now, but it's widened with the trucks taking the corners, that one rail's hanging out about a foot.
Yeah. Better quit yakking.
Oh, good discussion. Thanks, Dave.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dave.
Have a good week, Dave.
Yep, you guys too, bye-bye.
Okay, we'll go down to the next item on the agenda, is the fiscal 16 nonprofit funding. And we got, I think, two of them there we need to talk a little bit about yet. St. Anthony's.
Are we down to St. Anthony's and
And Freedom
the
Rock.
Freedom Rock, okay.
Yeah.
And the trail we're gonna talk about tomorrow.
Yeah, I'll try and get a hold of Jason, try to get it arranged.
Okay. I guess the trail isn't really nonprofit, is it, in conservation budget?
Yeah.
I was very impressed with, a couple weeks ago, we had the workshop. I was very impressed with their presentation, and I put value in that, and so they're a pretty busy bunch for public health, so I would make a recommendation to the board, consider it a motion, if you will, that we just keep the funding the same at $61,350.
I would second that motion.
Okay. Got a motion and a second on the floor to fund St. Anthony's at a rate of $61,350.
Which is what they requested, right?
Yes.
Any other discussion? Not, we're in order for, all in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
That was 61,000 what?
350.
350.
Okay.
And then the other one that we have is the Freedom Rock, where Alan Muehlbauer and Russ Stribe were here a couple weeks ago, and we talked about that one. And we need to determine what we want to do there.
Oh, there's the Freedom Rock, yeah.
As we continue this discussion on the nonprofits, I'm also going to ask the board just to have a little flashback on the Carroll County Wellness Coalition, but I just thought I'd mention that. But let's talk about the Freedom Rock now. That's what the chairperson has. And my understanding of the Freedom Rock is the rock. I've been there, seen pictures of it. I've seen it on Facebook. I went down and looked at it again last week. It's beautiful, and the rock is all paid for. And now they're looking for funds to do other things around it, landscaping, parking, and that type of thing. Am I understanding this correctly?
Kiosk and the-
Okay. All right. Yeah, I'm not a big, and another thing that was brought to my attention is what other legions have done or been doing, and primarily, being from Glidden, I heard about the Myrtle Hay Cemetery. They put a very large memorial up there. A lot of, a big deal there. I'm not sure how, I would guess the money there would have been more than the Freedom Rock had invested there that they had done on their own. And I'm just a little bit reluctant to step in and finishing up projects when the main part of the project, the rock itself, is done and paid for.
They were a little bit uncertain on what they really wanted, so they really never came to the board with anything specific. And I thought that they could probably do a little bit better job, since they emphasized it was a county project, but I don't think they contacted enough of the legions and got some buy-in from them as well, since it is a county project. I would have liked to seen a little more buy-in, have them go to their, like say Brita, they had Bubba Sorensen do a mural in the Legion Hall there on their own, and if they would go to Brita and say, hey, would you like to help us kick in since this is a county thing? I'd like to see a little bit more of that happening.
Well, first of all, I think they were talking looks like about 10,000 they were gonna spend yet. And I'd not be opposed to giving some, but I wasn't thinking any more than $1,000. It's that, just to say that we participated.
Virginia, you have a comment?
Well, two things. I think that this is a project for like FFA or 4-H or to do this landscaping or garden club or something like that. And the second thing is, I think it's kind of ironic that the Kemper Mall is using the same concept to raise money instead of taxpayers paying out for this rock.
I commend what they're doing down there. I think it's, it's a great addition to the Manning area. And yeah, I understood, how they were pitching it as a, county project. I don't really so much have an issue with that, but I just don't know. I question it on various fronts, but first and foremost, whether or not it's really judicious use of taxpayer funds. I think sometimes when taxpayer funds go into fund a project, I think that somewhat discourages philanthropy. I think they're saying, well, I donated. Look at my tax bill. I think it discourages that. And I think from a county perspective, I think if we're going to do something to recognize veterans or to serve veterans, I think that it's money better spent for services rather than things.
Good point.
So, I'm not in any favor of.
I've had a couple people approach me about it, and one of the comments that was made with the home base Iowa, we are a part of that. And the couple comments that I had were just token amounts of like $500 or $1,000, and I wouldn't be opposed to that. I think we kind of owe the veterans a little bit of tribute, being a home base Iowa County. And like they said, it's a one-time thing, and a token of $500 or $1,000 I wouldn't be opposed to at this time.
There's not to be a lot of fundraising besides that.
And in all fairness, I mean, some of the other nonprofits, we had the Wellness Coalition came in, we pledged $1,000 there. I mean, it's kind of on the same token.
That is kind of why I wanted to revisit that one.
Mhm.
And that's just what we did. We said, well, just $1,000, we'll do it. And since that, we've heard from other entities, St. Anthony's in particular, where they do have some other options that may come through for them on that. And I'm not sure that was, and it was on a 2-3 vote too. It was very close on the vote that we took in February 2nd, I think it was. So I'm going to kind of lump that in there at this time because you brought it up, Marty. And that is why I kind of want to revisit that one and see if we really do want to give them $1,000. I think what that was doing was a bit repetitious. They're looking for help on nutrition, and there's all kinds of nutrition programs out there and available. And like all these things, it's a good program. Nutrition is important. I have high respect for our veterans. What they're doing there is absolutely good. I can't say anything bad about the project. It's just the point where the taxpayer needs to step up and make a contribution for every thing that goes around. I think one of the major themes of government is to do things that individuals and small organizations can't do. That's where we need to step up to the plate. We don't need to be a contributor to everything and anything. So
Yes,
a little bit of philosophy in there too.
I guess I look at that, we voted on it, and I'm not a person that's going to go back on my word.
Okay. I would just I'm just bringing it up because we've got some additional information since then. Okay.
Any other discussion? Now we need a motion for or against.
Well, I'd move that we give the Freedom Rock $700.
A second. There is no second. Motion dies. The motion, another motion?
I would just like to see them do a little bit more work and maybe come back again. I guess this isn't a project that has to be done. You know, they got the rock there. They want to make the improvements. And I have nothing against the veterans, absolutely, but I would like to see them,
Footwork.
yeah, do a little bit more work on it. I'd like to consider it again at some other time, after they've done some more work.
I'll make a motion that we give them $500.
I think as far as budget purposes, we need to do something at this point, either for or against. Just so Courtney can put the budget together. I would second that motion if there is no other second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.
All right.
Nay.
Nay.
Okay. Motion carries.
It carried.
Failed.
Or failed, I should say. Motion failed.
Okay.
It's against. Okay, that's what we need to know. Okay, anything else on the nonprofits?
Okay. I'm just going to continue and bring up the Wellness Coalition and for reconsideration. And I think I've stated my point where it wasn't a lot of money, but I guess I did vote against it the first time, and but it was a very close vote. It was 2-3, and some more information has come up subsequent that there's other opportunities for them to get that money, and I just think that it's not the business we need to be in at this point. So is there anyone else who'd also like to reconsider that, or do you guys want to stay with what we did forever, or whatever?
I'm good with it.
I'm okay
We
with it.
voted once on it.
I see where you're
All right.
coming from, Neil, as far as
All right.
reconsidering. I mean, I wish we would have known that ahead of time. I wish.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's,
I think it would have been a different deal. And
all right, that's fine. I just wanted to bring it up, and I can see now that's going nowhere.
Okay.
That's fine.
Virginia, do you have a comment?
Have you had any results of walking in that food thing was the two things they talked about? Do you know how many go walking and how many attended the food program that was with Hy-Vee?
I don't think they've done those yet. I think they're
Well-
seeking funding to do those.
They have various walks, and I've not attended one. I know they're still doing it because I keep getting emails that, hey, we're going to have a walk this
Yeah.
Wednesday at this place, and I don't know what the participation is, but it's an ongoing thing, Virginia, so.
Well, I talked to somebody and they said those were the two things that $1,000 were to pay for, who were part of that coalition.
My understanding is $1,000 was going to go to a food and nutrition supplement to their walking.
Through the extension service.
Through the
way I
extension.
understood it.
Yes.
This was an extension person, and they didn't know how many participated.
No, I think they through the emails that you get, I think they have a hard time getting people to show up for walks. But the food program hasn't been put together yet. I think that's what they were seeking the funding for. I don't think, in my understanding, it's not the same program.
No. It's to add extension classes, and they're not yet set.
And I do recall that they were very specific that it was a one-time request, that they would not be back.
That is through extension. Okay.
Okay. Okay, we're done with those. Anything else on the nonprofits? She's pretty well covered, I think. Okay. We've got about 5 minutes before our public hearing. Should we just go down to doing manure management plans and
Sure.
committee reports, just to kind of
Sure.
fill in the time?
Sure.
And we can go back to budget work session after that. Okay, we've got one manure management plan here today, and it's with New Fashion Pork LLP. And it's the 315 Elite Finisher in Section 24 Wheatland Township. And this one is just basically a change of ownership and a plan update. So that's the only one we have there as far as manure management plans today.
Say it's a change of ownership?
Yes, New Fashion, it was Elite.
We have a few minutes, Marty. I'd like to address a budget thing that was brought to us on the VA.
Okay.
And I did meet with him, or Gene and I did, for the budget, and he gave us a copy of the law, and what it says is that the commission is supposed to recommend the compensation of the executive director. And then it also says the board of supervisors shall consider the recommendation, and we shall determine and approve the compensation. So when Ann Lander was here, that's just what he's doing. He's following the law and had the commission member make a recommendation. And we had gotten information from him as well, but it states it quite clear that the board of supervisors shall determine and approve the compensation. So it's our job. And Louis had brought us some things, and he's also since emailed us comparisons with other county employees, and I thought since it's our job, I was going to do due diligence and see how Louis stacks up with how I would find if I did the research. And one thing he had was compared his position to several other positions around the county, and I discarded that. He's a VA director. He needs to be compared to people doing like jobs. He wanted it compared to similar population and veterans, so I went on the census and I found Carroll County, 5 counties above us, the 5 counties below us. So I'm comparing it to population. They weren't exactly counties he used. Of the 5 above and the 5 next to us on population, 4 of them had part-time each side. And so I just used the part-time because Louis is not a 40-hour employee. And I averaged that. And Louis gets 15.5. The average of that was 14.8. So he actually gets $694 more than the average part-time. And there was some discrepancy there. Crawford County gets paid very little. Washington County gets paid very well, as we discussed. And then I thought, well, he also mentioned to use veteran ratios, and I don't know what he meant by that. But I went on the Department of Veterans Affairs and looked at how many veterans were in these same counties. It was quite close, actually. I didn't know if maybe some counties had a disproportionate number of veterans because they had a more retiring or older population versus a lot of young children. And of these counties, the average county had 63 more veterans in Carroll County, which is just a 4% difference. So I think he doesn't serve the general population, he specifically serves veterans. So I thought I found a pretty fair comparison, and I guess he's getting paid 4.4% more than the average, which is fine with me, because I think he does an excellent job, and he handles about 4% less veterans than the other counties. So I think he's being treated okay, and I want to make sure he is treated okay, because I think Louis does a great job. But I just thought I'd tell you what research I found, if you've done other research or have different perspective. And he also did the 5 counties around us that have part-time directors as well, and they came up very close. They were 15,003, Louis gets 15,500. They're paid a little less, and but those counties have quite a few less veterans in. So I think the comparison with the population, which is very close, same number of veterans, is very accurate. I think Louis is doing a great job, and I think his compensation is a little bit better than the comparables, but not out of line. So I would say we need to do our job, consider their recommendation, but we need to make the decision, and my decision would be to grant him the 2.5% increase like everybody else, and he'll be right in with everybody else, similar things. So that's what I did. If any of you did something different or object to that,
No.
go ahead.
I went and talked to Louis a little bit on Friday and just visited about the commission's recommendation. And then I got this from Louis, and this is some other part-time salaries in the courthouse and the hours that they work. And then his is on the bottom there.
He'd emailed that to me as well. I didn't know if he'd
Yeah,
emailed
I
it to
saw
everybody.
that. I got that too.
I discarded that because they're not doing his job and he's not
Right.
doing their job.
Yeah.
And I understand what he's doing there. He found a comparison that, and that's why I also did the geographical thing, because look, people in Carroll County and people in Polk County, Audubon County, they all get paid a little different. Washington County is where you really want to be. But yeah, I discarded that. I compared him to VA directors because that's his job and what other VA directors do in similar sized counties, similar populations of veterans.
Okay, with that, we're gonna cut this off for now. We can come back to it. It's 10 o'clock and we've got the public hearing for the zoning and ordinance change for the second reading. Carl?
Hi, Carl.
Good morning, Carl. Good weekend. First one would be for the rezoning of by Breda.
Yeah.
Didn't receive any other comments. I don't know if you guys had.
Has the auditor's office heard anything? I've heard none,
No.
so, looking for a motion to approve.
Yeah.
We're scheduled for
Um,
public hearing on
Yeah, we gotta-
Okay,
Oh.
sorry.
Do we want to have the public hearing for both of them, or do we want to do them separate?
Either one's fine to me.
Let's do them one at a time, and then,
Okay.
I know on this one, since we haven't heard anything, after we close the public hearing, I would recommend we not have a third, but we waive the third hearing.
I'm with, yeah.
If it was controversial, we'd have more hearings.
Yeah, yep.
Me too.
Okay, with that, we'll close the public hearing on the first item on the LP tank up by Breda for burning oil.
And I'll move that we adopt the amended provisions to the county zoning map and waive the third reading.
Okay, need a motion, you got a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, you need a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, so we'll open up the public hearing again for the second item. And that's the one down by Coon Rapids.
Shooting range.
Shooting
We
range.
do have, if you recall, Royce kind of had requested that we look at the wording on that. And so we went back and forth a couple times on the definition of the number 909, the outdoor shooting ranges used for shooting sports, including but not limited to shotgun, black powder, rifle, handgun, and archery sports, according to the provisions of section 1404-160. Before it had just said outdoor rifle or ski shooting ranges, which is what was originally in the conservation district. This does clarify a little better what would be allowed in these areas. And again, I didn't receive any other comments.
That's fine. Any other questions or comments regarding this amendment to the zoning ordinance?
Once again, your office didn't hear anything.
Okay. Virginia?
Is there a copy available? I couldn't find it on the second question is, does this cover the 2-mile zone
No.
for either Carroll or Glidden?
Neither.
And after they get a permit, who is in charge then of compliance or
That
built
would,
right or whatever?
that would be my
Your job?
job.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? If not, we'll close the public hearing. 10:07.
I will move that we approve the amendment to the zoning ordinance in regard to shooting ranges, and we waive the third reading.
Okay, got a motion, need a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, got a motion and a second on the floor. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, same. Motion carries.
Thanks, Carl.
Thank you.
Thanks, Carl. Okay, then we'll go back to number 4 item on the agenda is the budget work session.
Everybody got a copy of this preliminary budget. I know we need to go through and make some changes. What I did is I plugged in the numbers that everybody came in here with when they met with the board. So if there's things that need to be changed, we should probably go through and make those changes at this point.
With the ambulance, there was some discussion, and I think it centered around the rotation of the ambulances. What did you plug in for that?
Take care.
I wasn't sure we had decided which way to go there.
And we did. He requested 80. So that's what I plugged in.
And that's with the 2-year rotation? Okay.
When we get to it, I'll revisit that. The ambulance board met Tuesday, still in support of it all, very passionately. But in looking at, taking a more scrutinous look at his budget, there's a few other line items that I would ask for you to address too. Before we get there, though, I've got a question first, Courtney, on revenues. Something that's very important to us this year is going to be, I forget what the nomenclature is, but the backfill promised from the state of the commercial. And is that shown in the revenues detail on line 21? I was just trying to find that in here, and what the exact amount is for that.
think it's part of that. Let me look here in the revenues and I can kind of give you an idea. They sent out a worksheet that kind of gave you a way to calculate that within, because, it is kind of just an estimate off of our valuation report.
Oh, so they don't give you just a hard dollar amount?
No, you actually have to do the calculation.
Oh,
So-
that makes it easy.
Yeah, so for example, let's see here.
Why does that somehow not make sense?
In general basic, the backfill or the reimbursement from the state will be $114,258.
114,258?
Yeah, and that is in line 14. And those are actually.
Line 14, on
of
what
the
page?
revenues, revenue detail.
14 would be the last column.
Probably 720,000. Oh, you said revenue detail.
Yes.
Line 14?
Line 14 in general basic.
General,
Column A.
This format.
column
Line
A.
14.
I'm showing 299,658 in that line.
Is
unless-
that right?
That is right, because that also includes all the credits, so. we have-
Homestead?
Yes,
Okay.
homestead, ag land, elderly and disabled, farm tax, that should, and business property tax credit. So those are all included in the state money or state replacements against our tax. And
I
that flows
thought it would have been
through-
higher than that, but that's,
Well, that's the county portion,
right.
so.
Right.
I thought it would be too, and when I called the gal down at the state, she was, keep in mind, you're only taking the county commercial and industrial, you're not taking what's in Carroll, or, it's not the grand picture.
Okay.
So
No, okay,
it made a
so it's
little more
just-
sense to me, and actually, when I looked at what we collected in November, we've already collected half. We'll get the other half in March. So when I took what we collected in November and took it times 2, it's pretty close to the calculation I came up with, so it should be right on.
Okay, you're pretty confident with it then?
Oh, yeah,
Okay.
definitely.
Yeah, I would have thought it would have been higher than that, but.
Yeah, but if you segregate that out, it makes sense.
And I can show you the sheet that I used and how I came up with that number, but, yeah, so far, for example, so far our first payment reimbursement was $37,757, and that was just in general basic. So we'll get the other half of that in March, which is about, roughly 80,000. It's a little less than that, but, so it's about 24,000 more, for the new budget. And with valuations not doing much, that makes sense to me.
And you left local option at 900,000.
Yeah, I did not change that option.
Well, it makes sense if you look at history, at least over last year, because it's actually less than last year.
It is, because when I calculated business property tax credit, I had no idea. That was just a shot in the dark. We had no idea how many people were gonna apply. We didn't know how much money people were gonna be getting. So I was actually a little high on that.
Okay, so you've lowered it by 114,000 then
Yeah.
too?
Yeah, I lowered that quite a bit. We didn't get near, I think I figured it'd be closer to 200,000 in credits, and we're getting about 90,000 in credits.
Pretty significant.
And that, of course, that's money that's just going to the taxpayer off their taxes, but, yeah. Just from the information they gave us last year, trying to give people an idea of what to budget for, because nobody knew.
Okay.
We had no idea how many people were gonna apply for that or how much money they would get. But now that we've got this first payment in, it's a pretty good indication. Now, it could be more or less depending on, if they have more people apply this year. I know that a lot of people said, well, I didn't even know anything about that. So, we might have more applicants this year too.
Thanks, Courtney.
Was there any other changes that did in revenues other than that?
I have there's a change that needs to be made in capital projects. Neil talked to me a little bit about this morning. There's $100,000 that conservation is going to be getting from Conservation Foundation. And Jason brought it to my attention, that needs to be included in their revenues. So, same page, the revenue detail, column I for capital projects, and it's down in line 19. There's $250,000, that's their federal grant. I'll need to include probably on line 17, that 100,000 that they're gonna be getting. There was some confusion when he told me that the first time, and I did not put anything on first.
Okay, while we're talking conservation, is there anywhere in here where you've anticipated any loan or contribution to the conservation for the Sauk Trail in addition to that?
The county?
From the county, okay.
So hopefully we could get a range today. See where we need to be.
So, okay, I'm a little confused on that. I thought his budget included 100,000. It did not.
They were waiting until they get that bid in today.
Yeah,
Is
they-
that today or tomorrow?
Today.
Today is the bid.
Mhm.
He was gonna email me what those bids are, and then I'm sure that it sounded like it was gonna be this afternoon. So then at that time, I'll go ahead and forward them to you guys.
Okay, yeah, that'll work.
Let you know. I think the only thing in his budget that pertained to the Sauk Rail Trail was the $250,000 and the $100,000 that they were contributing to conservation. To come up to $350,000. Isn't that right, Marty?
Yeah, that's what he talked about that day we visited with him.
I was kind of hoping, and I don't know if this is something better to do tomorrow, but I was kind of hoping we could just kind of go through each of the departments and address any issues anybody has. I know when they, like I said, I put in the numbers that they proposed when they met with everybody, and I thought, those can be changed very easily in the system, but I don't know what to change or what you guys want to do unless we talk about it, I guess.
I guess the first one I will bring up is the home care aides. We talked about that with the mileage.
The mileage,
Yeah,
yes.
and then we went back on it, and Megan refigured that one, and it came up to about $700-800 more than what she had put on that first sheet. What she went, when I talked to her a week ago Friday, what she had put in is the year-to-date amount, is what she figured that off, instead of the actual, the fiscal year. So it came up to like, I think it was $235 per person, is what she had told me what the figure was, and it came out to like $2,113 or something on that order.
Yeah, that's what I have here, 2115 totally.
Yeah.
And that you got in there already?
I do not, 'cause
No.
that got brought up to me after this was all said and done, and I'm like, well, I'm not changing it until I know for sure
Yeah.
what we're gonna go with.
And that was, what was that, 1,400 something?
1470 or 1410, something
Yeah,
like that,
so-
that's what it was.
Yeah.
It'll be a change, and that was a good discussion Marty had. I know at the meeting, we had noted the difference between some of my earlier calculations, and we wanted to make sure that, everybody's using the same figures. And so apparently she's made a little bit of correction with you, Marty.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah.
I would concur that you used her updated figures that Marty provided there.
And the other thing on that same note, she had 10 employees and she's got one that's not coming back, so she backed that out of it. So there's only gonna be 9 that will be affiliated, that figure will be affiliated with, instead of 10 employees.
And I spoke to her a little bit about her mileage. I don't know if any of you have her report in front of you, but she was budgeting $25,000 for
Mhm.
mileage. Last year, it was about 22.5. So I recommended to her that she should probably maybe back off that 25 because the mileage will be less because we're paying less. And right now, she's in line to spend about 23 this year. So she lowered it to 23,550. So that is not reflected in this either because I talked to her late Friday.
23,550.
From 25, so she agreed that it probably should come down a little bit based upon the percentage we're putting in, so that change will need to be made also.
One question I've got is, does she anticipate having just the 9 staff
Mhm.
from
From
here on out?
Yep.
Yes.
I just wouldn't want that to change back again after
Plan
we've
to
just
replace her.
No, it's-
divided it,
Okay.
so.
No, they don't plan on replacing.
Okay.
Well, your suggestion goes through each department, you want to start out with?
Well, or the departments that we know need
Need
some
adjustments.
tweaking, because I know that some of them came in and were ones that I know that everybody wasn't in agreement on, so. I mean, do we need to look at the supervisors? I would probably not, unless somebody has an issue with
I guess the biggest thing there is mileage, if there's any changes in anything, but we kept the boards
it.
pretty
And we're
much the
usually
same.
pretty frugal in that line anyway. But we can certainly change it.
I guess the other thing, I know we talked a little bit about the computers, do we want to put anything in there as far as computers at this time, or just wait till a later date? If we go forward there.
We kind of had some discussions down there, I expect the other day about that.
We had an Audubon County supervisor sitting between us with his keyboard and thing, and to the advantage, he found that he could access some old information that he needed. But as far as using it at a meeting, he said it just wasn't working out. It took too long to reference and find things as opposed to having it right here.
Of course, that was his own personal one that he had, but yeah, it wasn't. And I don't think I would be satisfied with something that small. You know, how am I gonna do work on it?
Although that one did have a keyboard.
Yeah, it did have a keyboard.
Pocahontas County was considering it, and they were sitting at the same table as well.
How big a keyboard, the one from Audubon, how big a keyboard? It's probably one of those little, like a 10 or 11 inch.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's still.
It was pretty small.
size of a iPad thing, or yeah, it's a little smaller than a sheet of paper.
I just, on the way back, I stopped at Best Buy and Ames.
Probably
Just
about
looked
like
at
that.
some-
I'd give it a little more than that, but yeah, somewhere in
You think it
there.
was a little more than that?
I'd say if you're gonna do it, you'd want like a 13 or a 15 inch. If you're gonna do
15
something.
inch is pretty big. I stopped at Best Buy, where was I? On Lincoln, Nebraska.
Yeah,
And,
the 13 would be ideal.
yeah,
Because the 15
he
is
gave me,
carry
and I've
around.
got the information, I don't have it with me, but he wanted to make sure that you had a Pentium processor. If you get much smaller than that, your processing is limited. And it was a laptop,
Mhm.
so you could use it as a computer and not as a tablet. So it had more functionality, I guess, that way.
I guess my question is do we want to put anything in the budget or just leave it and come back to it at a later date?
I'm not a fan of putting that in the budget at this time myself.
Yeah. This thing's looking ugly enough the way it is. I hate to spend another nickel, quite frankly.
If we were gonna do anything, I would consider one and try it, but otherwise, no, I'm not interested in putting it in the budget either.
I'm not always sold on it yet.
Okay, let's leave it out for now.
I think we can buy some paper yet for what we're doing.
What did Todd spend for his? Did he say? I didn't ask you that.
You know, I don't know if he did say.
He said it was his own personal one.
Yeah, it was his own personal one. You know, whether you get one of them or a laptop, I think you're talking about the same amount of money, really.
I think the one I was looking out there was an HP. It was a good one, and I think it was about $399.
It says, it's about 4 to 4.5 if you
Yeah.
buy it for.
So right in that range, it'd be less than $500.
Yeah, I think you can use $3 to $5 range.
Yeah.
Okay, so, we're okay on supervisors, I guess I can just go through each one. The auditor, since nobody said anything, maybe we should be okay on that one. Next one is the treasurer. Was there any changes that needed to be made as far as expenditures in that one?
That's the big one for me.
Yeah.
I'm gonna stick to, what I said in December. So, throw it out for the rest of you to discuss, I guess. That one's a little dicey because her overall budget is down.
Well, and that's the point that I'm
But-
gonna make, I guess.
But it could have been down substantially more. Could have been.
I guess that's the point that I would make, that her budget is lower than last year, and she's making it work.
Well, and I'll be quite frank with you, I did have a discussion with her this last week. I can't find it now. Give her reasons for what she did do. And I guess, I'm with you, Mark. I wasn't happy the way it turned out. But after hearing her explanation, I think it's different. Let's say, I guess you have a mechanic out there in your shop, and you promote a mechanic up to shop foreman, there's usually adjustment in salary. And, but I'm still not happy with the amount. But like you said, her budget is way under. And as far as looking at her other budget, I don't know where you can take any more out of it.
Gene, I've heard that analogy before, but if we have an opening for one shop foreman, we don't promote 3 to do it.
I know, but her eye,
But she was moving up.
all 3 of them.
She was moving up all 3 of them.
Okay,
There
I
was
just
a- there
debate
was
that
a
was
his-
necessary. I
There's a
mean,
history there of.
just move
how it's
one.
all that office has done that in the past. And I'm not happy with it, but I don't know. The thing is, Mark, we have to approve a budget, otherwise those courts told me we go back to last year's askings. Numbers, right?
So we just need to come to an agreement.
or we
So
lower
can-
it, or it gets lowered. I mean,
You don't have to
No, we can-
approve, her overall asking is 502,416. You don't have to approve
Right.
that, you can.
approve 450 of it, or whatever.
I guess I'm gonna go back to what's happened in some surrounding counties, and there's some courthouses that have gone union, and that word has been brought up. I don't wanna go there, Mark. We got enough unions.
And I don't either, but this could actually add fuel to that fire.
The deputies can't be, the deputies can't be in the office.
They can't go out of the union.
And here's the other consideration. Mark my words, this day, February 16th, 17th, she's gonna wanna bring those counter people up next year to be more in line with the rest of her staff. Because there's a huge disparity between the counter personnel and the back personnel. Huge disparity there.
Well, I would agree with that, but I don't think that would be the case because they are still new employees and moving up. I don't think you have to close that.
Bet you a beer on it.
I think
She'll come back.
in regards to the salaries, I don't object to her making a move, but I do object to the fact that she took a quantum jump and just made such a large-scale change. That's the issue I have. I've made it quite clear to her,
She did back down from her original.
somewhat.
Somewhat. And I agree, that's my verb. That was such
Yep.
but she showed me the last time it was more.
Yeah, back in 2001, it was significantly more.
The previous one did it in a bigger jump.
Did three
And I
people
have a
move
hard
up too?
time.
Did 3 people get moved up then too, or just the
There was a
one?
couple, of them, yeah.
There was 2 at that
I
time.
think it
That was
might have
before
been-
my time.
I
That's
think
why
it was
said
kind of the
that.
same situation.
Well, and the last one that had happened in our tenure is, it's one we'd all like to have back
Yeah.
before yours,
That's
Well, the
absolutely
problem
true.
but
is-
we'd like to have that one back.
The problem I have with it is this has happened, and it seems like it's the worst part of this job, and just like it's a fire goes down the hallway, it goes from one to the next to the next. And I think if we do approve the budget the way it is on hers, that we need to send out a memo to all department heads that any major changes in salaries are gonna have to be run by the whole board prior to it.
But, Gene, you can't approve this one and say from now on, we're
I
gonna,
know.
you gotta,
It's
you
my
either
whole
set an
budget.
example,
I think the
either set an
whole
example
time.
now, either do it now, or you can't do it. You can't say, we're gonna do it this time, but not next time. That doesn't work for me very well.
I guess my comment is here, we can micromanage this all we want micromanagement. We're not in this position every day. We're the supervisors to approve it. I don't think it's our job to micromanage it.
We're not telling her how to run her office. That's
Yes, you
micromanagement.
are.
What we're instructed to is to manage the fiscal accountability and restraints that this office holds.
You are micromanaging.
I disagree. I
Our,
respectfully disagree.
our charge by code is to set the budget. She does the management, but we set the budget. And I
She's
don't,
doing managing.
and I don't intend to forfeit that responsibility of ours to any department head. So I don't have an amount, maybe I will by tomorrow, but I would respectfully wish to reduce that overall budget and let her do the micromanaging, deciding where, and the issue is with the salaries that the increases were so large.
What dollar amount are you talking?
The total budget, I'm not sure where we'll take it from. That's a hard one, Marty, really is.
It was approximately $4,500 times 3. Was about what it was. So, I mean, in my mind, that's the number that's sticking with me. I mean, I would be, supportive of, giving somebody increased responsibilities with an increased adjustment, but not anywhere close to that.
I guess going on back on the part-timers, or the people that she did hire, she asked for $32,000 there, and they went back to $28,000. There's $12,000, or $9,000, or $12,000 right there. And that's why I look at, she's under budget.
Yeah, she did hire for a lot less than,
And had plenty of applications and got a very, very good hire there. College degree,
but I
sharp
mean,
young
the thing
lady.
is, she did keep the line on that, but she could have went higher.
Mhm.
I will go along with that. Yeah,
It's a double-edged sword.
There's something we need to keep in mind about her budget is less so they can spend more. And you could go a long ways with that. I wouldn't tell the engineer that if you spend less for gravel, you can have more for your employees because you were under budget, There's a lot of ways to cut budget that have nothing to do with salary that could be shifted to salary, and that's what this is. It's a shift. And there's a lot of other ways that could happen, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And we don't want to open the door and say, well, if you can cut cost in this area, so you're under budget, you can increase your salaries. I think that's a bad precedent. Although we do promote efficiency, efficiency should relate to savings.
Well, salaries is the big part of her budget.
Of our county budget.
Well, I mean,
Of
when
our
you're
entire
talking,
budget.
when you're talking about saving money on gravel and transferring it to employees, I mean, People is, her people is her
commodity.
commodity.
Yeah.
It's her gravel. And
I guess we can think about it today yet, but I would like to get something done tomorrow on it.
I think we need to decide that tomorrow.
Yep.
I do. We need to make a decision at some
High
point.
Center. Okay, any other ones?
County attorneys, general basic, his salary's just 2.5, or whatever. Jim's percentages of his, so I didn't see any issues there. Is there anything that,
I made some notes there on that one. I'll just get to it. The big thing there is, there's been a major shift in, that former 28E agreement that we had with Calhoun and SAC, now for additional help. And then, of course, the expense that comes out of the forfeitures there.
But that expense is done raised last year already, wasn't it? That shift.
Well, the shift was done in 15. But again, part of that shift is it's gonna cause, additional expense in the insurance, which, he's been good enough to take it out of the forfeitures, so it's really not a tax. The criminals get to support that one. I think his net tax asking was up 5%. Does anybody recall, I just made a note here, does anybody recall the legal and court-related service line? I think it's 42,502. He's got $5,000 budgeted there, and he's only incurred a $440 expense in the 2 prior years.
Yeah, he did say.
Do you remember what that was? Because I did, and I did his pre-budget, but I didn't.
Transcripts, et cetera, is what I have for a note on that.
Didn't he have that in a different line or something, with the way New County it showed up on here? I was thinking that's what he said. Could that be possible?
I don't know.
I can go on.
I'm just, again, I'm looking at, we're not shooting at any large target here, gentlemen. But if there's several smaller ones, it might make a little bit of a difference in our tax asking this year. It's just one that I had noted there. And I looked at the pre-budget, and the one above there I show as documents and transcripts, but there's 3 of them that all look relatively the same, one of which doesn't have any budget item in it at all. But in his pre-budget, he shows the same 4,500 and 5,000. And I showed documents and transcripts on that 42,501. But, certainly if it's something that's required and needed, then, but it's just a question.
Can you look what that is?
Yep, I got it. You want me to do it right now?
Yeah, just so we know. I'm thinking he said that.
Well, there hasn't been anything paid out of it this year. There was nothing paid out of it last year, and only $440 of it paid in
Yeah, but
13.
I was thinking he was saying it was, but I don't see where it was a shift from someplace else. I don't remember. That's what I had in my head. And I may be wrong.
And I can shoot him a quick email and just ask, but sometimes that doesn't go well. Wow.
snowing out.
Yeah.
We're supposed to get much?
I didn't think so. Where are you looking at?
Right here, just on page 1. This line is 42,502. See, this is the only, he's budgeted 5,000 each year. And I'll just
Okay,
show you.
that's right.
And then here's when I did,
Got it.
when I did the pre-budget with Neil, you know, I made a note that the line above it was for documents and transcripts, but I didn't catch it here, so.
Okay.
Doesn't mean he didn't explain it, it's just I didn't get it down. Maybe you guys might have known, or you guys might have seen the same thing I did. Tell you, after I got this Friday, I went to work. Went over every single line item by line item again.
It's called juvenile restitution. I'm not exactly sure how or why, but that's what it's called.
I can ask him if he can revisit it, or,
Yeah, that's fine.
you know. No
I'm
one
sure
else,
that's just something he puts in
unless
there
no
in
one else
case
has a
he-
problem with it, but I
he
mean,
needs it.
I don't want to go
I
down
think
that
I think
path.
we questioned it, didn't use here, that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, we did too, now that
I didn't make any notes of it though.
Okay.
You want to talk to John and then come back on it?
Yeah.
Okay.
What's next, Courtney?
Sheriff and out of general basic. Got the salary things
Straighten out.
addressed. When he was here, there was some confusion, but we went back and made sure that we had the right amounts on there, and of course, they're all union, other than Doug, Sean, and Ken, and then those were just what the comp board did. Ken's a percentage of Doug, and Sean was just the 2.5.
Yeah, I think the big thing was, he was considerably over,
Yeah,
and that got readjusted.
it did, it did.
Let's see, I did have some questions on that one too. Does anybody recall what he had planned for tasers this year? He's got $4,000 budgeted for tasers. But again, that line item has only had $90 out of it over the last 3 years. And yet he's budgeted $4,000 each year. Does anybody recall that?
Did
Did
he
he
plan
say
on
something about
replacing
that?
some?
Huh? Did he say something about replacing some now they were getting some age on it?
That's what I had.
That's what he talked
Yeah.
about.
But yeah, there's another situation where that's in.
It's in every year and
year
then
every
nothing
year,
taken
and
out.
nothing, no, there's no activity on it.
That was exactly where I have written on that line of tasers, replacement.
That's what I thought I
Yeah,
remembered.
so that answers that
That's my
question.
hand scribbled note.
Okay, so on that same page, the last two lines, 63,200 and 63,600, we've got 20,000 budgeted. And again, not near that much taken out each year. And I just, I don't want it to be confused with, you'll see the next item, 63,600, and that $11,000 figure. I think you guys all remember that. And that always seems to bother us in June, but does it bother us in February?
Well, I would suggest that when we do the second half allocation this coming year, we only allocate, say, 95% or something. And that way, the discussions on these items will come up before they happen.
A lot of them don't realize that, though. You know, they'll just spend whatever's in their budget. It's up to me to make sure they don't go over the percentage, and then I'm the bad guy.
Oh.
So as long as everybody's aware of it,
Well, I think that's some way, if we do the budget, and we do what Neil's suggesting, I think we need to let them know that after we do the budget, that they are only gonna get allocated so much.
'cause,
The-
you know, their
the-
report will show the whole amount.
I don't want to go that way, and there is another option, is to just cut everybody 5% on their budget and keep that in a separate fund. But I would rather do it the other way, to let them know that they're only going to be allocated a portion of their second half. And that way, if somebody wants to make a large expenditure at the end, such as we experienced in that department last year, at least it forces the discussion ahead of time. I know in this, we're talking about the office furniture, right? You know, we said, well, we think you're spending too much, and why didn't you talk to me about it? And why didn't you talk to me about it? And this way, that discussion will happen.
But I think what she's saying is that we need to let them know that.
Absolutely.
I think when we get done with the budget, I think we need to let them know that we're gonna allocate so much each portion, but they're not gonna get the full allocation second half.
Absolutely.
So they're aware of it, so she isn't being pained to be the bad guy.
Well, and a lot of them will, you know, they can only spend up to what you've allocated, and most people just,
Okay.
you know. So, yeah, I think it's important to make sure everybody's aware.
Absolutely. I think that information, well in advance, would be good information.
Do we wanna have him come and explain a couple of those things?
Wouldn't hurt, we just asked.
Have them come up tomorrow.
Yeah, wouldn't hurt. I mean, does anybody else see what I see?
Yeah.
I'll talk to him today after we get down here. See if he's got time tomorrow.
But that was, so your main concern was,
Well, the tasers, I mean, again, if, you know, if they're replacing them, that's fine, but.
Line 63,200 is your big
63,200.
question.
Is
But
the question.
But the other one's a question about the data processing. There's $20,000 budgeted there, and it doesn't look like we've been spending it. Maybe there's some service contracts due this year or something that, you know, I just didn't make good notes.
well, I remember on the tasers, I'm pretty sure he said he had to start replace some, because they
Yeah.
were getting some time on it.
But you're right, Mark. I mean, we got the same thing as the 4,000 on the tasers. You got 20,000, and you're not spending anywhere close to that.
Right. Okay.
I'll talk to Doug.
General basic, I don't remember if I had anything really there. Or, no, rural, I'm sorry. Yeah, rural, we just did general basic, right? Yeah. I don't think I had anything rural.
I'm gonna stay on Doug's stuff then, because we can skip to the jail.
Correctional.
Correctional services.
Yes.
In the jail. And we made a revision there on those salaries, didn't we, on that one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
You can see where he moved, basically they hired the full-time person, so they didn't have to mess around with part-time.
Right.
So-
Yeah, I didn't have a question on that one.
Okay, sorry.
Is there something you caught? Okay.
Other than, the food prep, that was just my kind of question, a little bit, it's, towards the end of the jail. Just, you know, the 4,000 that we had, we had, 4,000 for the food prep, and then, the 4,000 for the
That'll depend a lot on how many people
How many,
got
yeah.
down there, I think, right?
That's my understanding, they're full. And they have been for-
Yeah, but you're right, there's, you know, they made, good for them, significant gains in that between 13 and 14. But yeah, you're right, I mean, I missed that one. Food prep. Whatever they're doing a much better job at, that's for sure.
Look at year-to-date activity, he's at 10.4 or 10.5, so that puts you right at 21,000.
Yeah.
And he's
so
got
he's
25.
probably-
Oh, that's through 7 months though, Marty.
Yeah.
So it'd be
Right.
about 18,000.
18, okay. That's
So it is
right.
gonna be considerably higher than it was in the past couple budgets. 12,088. The prior budget.
There might be a little room there.
Okay, communications. That one got a lot of clarification on too. I know there was some confusion when he was in here about the
Salary
city's
comment.
half and things like that, but got that corrected.
Yeah, this one's hard to do a history on because, you know, when we took it over in 14,
Only got it 2 years.
yeah. But the overall budget, I had the city raised this question to me, that the overall budget appears to be up about 11%.
A lot of that's due to the train was put off. Remember, Marty?
Yeah, yeah, that's,
They are way behind on training down there. Doug's trying to get that caught up. To keep their service good.
His line item for training doesn't reflect that, but.
But I think it's been most of the time and salaries, because you gotta get.
Okay. But again, office data processing seems to be the biggest increase there.
But is that part of that pass-through, that one grant?
Could be. Yeah, the overall tax asking is up 25% since 14. What's next on the list?
Sorry.
That's all right.
I'm gonna do a quarter.
Well, that one, the increase mostly came from, you know, again, a raise to a contract worker that's now been made part-time, full-time, part-time.
Permanent part-time.
Yeah,
I think
permanent
is what we call
part-time,
it.
yeah. And then, of course, it triggered the health insurance, which causes that increase to be, if I remember right, a 40% increase in the tax asking.
I don't like those shifts when we have an employee that just barely qualifies for health insurance. It makes it very expensive for the employee very expensive on a per hour or per unit basis.
Yeah. It's a fabulous part-time job, you know.
It makes it a
is.
very lucrative part-time job.
Yeah, total tax asking increased 47% there. Because remember, she lowered her revenue projections for real estate transfers.
Oh, yeah, those are down.
I realize we're not in the revenue business here, but it's just stands out.
Also on the recorder, in their general office supplies, I see it was 5,400. It's quite a bit compared to what had been spent. And the comment I made there, that's why we should have a 95% allocation. That's something we could address towards the end of the year to see if whatever her want is important.
Should we address that office supplies?
I don't know what that was for. I see they're requesting 5,400 and,
So when you go back to there's 3,700 in 12,
that's the highest
13.
it ever
That's the
was.
highest it's ever been.
my biggest issue with this is I really don't like paying insurance to a person who's on 21 hours a week.
As is mine.
That's just, if it was coming out of her pocket, it wouldn't be happening, I know that.
I mean, it's our policy. We can't go back changing the policy, but she needs to, you know, somehow a way to absorb that cost somehow. I mean, the way I saw it. It's along the same lines as, you know, the treasurer's decision, but I mean, it's not exactly the same thing either. But it's along those same lines. It seemed to happen right at about that same time.
If you look at the office equipment, it's gone over 2 out of the review years, and I know it gets pulled from,
The supplies.
but if it were me, I think it's smarter to budget in the line what you're gonna spend in the line. I don't like pulling stuff from other places, it makes it confusing.
Makes it harder for you down the road to switch
Well, it does, because, yeah, it's not an accurate. I mean, it's still, I don't know.
So what you're saying is if that's the case, it should be,
In the appropriate expenditure line item. Because what it does is it causes you to, you know, once you tap out of that,
Right.
to spend out of another one.
but it's still, it's over, above, never used up between two of them.
No, I would agree with that.
I say bring her back in too, ask her questions off.
Last time she was here, we did ask about the insurance on a 21-hour employee, and in response, I'm trying to remember, it had something to do with, well, we have other employees who aren't taking insurance or only have single plans, or what was the response?
I think Kathy takes just a single, doesn't she?
Okay. I didn't relate that, how that would be,
It's not anything you can control.
No.
yeah,
I mean,
No.
yeah, this is though.
I don't take insurance, and I don't look for you guys' way to spend it.
Sorry. Veterans Affairs, after speaking, or after you speaking today, I'll have to make an adjustment to the salary, because I put in what he submitted, so, there'll be a change there on that.
So, we're talking about this number right here.
Mhm.
This is the difference.
Yeah, well, it went up 10%, which would be another $1,400, but now she added a single policy for that part-time.
So that's,
That's why that's up, yeah.
but at one time it was.
That was back when half Apollo was out of there, and then we also had Pat Simon.
But it's went down.
Because
Considerably.
Kathy wasn't taking it at all, it was just Marilyn, and they added the part-time. Mhm.
It's on Veterans Affairs.
No, just that salary thing that I think.
Okay. The next one on mine is Conservation Board, general basic.
The, and again, this is just one that I'll just throw out, is line under expense, second, part-time salaries. Whether or not, Neil, you had mentioned, the concession help, it's barely breaking even, whether or not that's even worth having. And then hiring a naturalist intern, is that necessary? You got a full-time naturalist to begin with out there. I don't know. I don't.
Is that one of the programs that get help hiring it? I'm not sure. Can you give me a search for some there?
I don't know, I assume it has to do with a lot of the summer programs that they do for the kids, they bring them out there for summer camps and that type of thing. I think that's what it has to do with. And I'm not sure if it's one that's compensated for or not.
I mean, like some of the kids, when they get them out there, they get compensated some of that, don't they? Is there a grant for that?
There are some programs where they get a pretty good chunk of their salary reimbursed for summer help. I don't remember exactly how that works.
Which ones are all new.
I know what you're talking about, but I'm not, I can't get real specific about it.
We've spent $9,000 each of the past 2 years. See if everybody else stuck out to them.
I can ask Jason about that.
Well, he might be, yeah, he might be in tomorrow.
That's what it
No,
is.
he's in
Well,
Des Moines for
oh,
the
he
next
is?
2 days.
Oh, he is?
Yeah.
He's just gonna get the information to you, isn't he?
Okay.
Yeah. He won't
You
be
might
back
want to ask
until
him if it's
Thursday.
something that's absolutely necessary.
While we're on the subject conservation, I think it'd be appropriate if we discuss on, they're gonna probably come to us with a dollar amount here on Monday. And think we need to discuss whether or not we want to do that all as a loan or all as a grant or a combination. And maybe we need the dollar amount before we can decide that. But personally, I would like to have it way heavy on the loan side. They do have significant income coming from cash rent and CRP. And I know they've got some of that committed for the short term, so maybe it wouldn't be a 2-year loan, it might be a little longer term loan, but I think if they should be able to use some of that to repay some of our contribution if we make one. That's a real general comment, but I want to get the discussion started.
Was that, didn't you raise the question last week about whether or not it's even legal to
Yeah, and I
provide a loan?
haven't-
Did you find out?
I haven't had a chance to follow back up
Because
on
quite
that.
frankly, that never even dawned on me. I was thinking of how the Maple River Sewer Fund went, and we did it there. So I
Well,
didn't
we
even
would wanna know
question.
that.
I can follow up on that
Yeah.
today, I can get a hold of Chris.
And I would agree with you. I mean, I've long held the belief that, when they broke that farm rent into 3 portions, we knew well in advance that this trail was gonna need its rehab, and to allocate some for, additional property and another one for park improvements, to me, didn't really make a whole lot of sense that we were out considering acquiring more when we're not focusing on taking care of what we already have. It can be debated until the cows come home what's the most important of those 3 balls, but for me personally, that it seems to be that trail's been in dire need of rehabilitation for a good long time. Continues to be, I think, just nothing short of a miracle that we haven't had a serious accident on that. But I would agree with you that when I sat in on those original meetings, I didn't have, again, I'm speaking only for me and not for the entire board, but I didn't anticipate finding much resistance in the loaning part of it, but I still had a number in my mind that was going to be limited at about $75,000 was what I thought, would be a suitable contribution from the county, from actual tax dollars, whether it be local option or whatever we decide to fund it. But the bulk of it, or the majority of it, would come in the form of a loan. You can also remember when those discussions first began, that was before we did the ICP TIF, and, depleted $770,000 out of that local option fund. But that fund has rebuilt itself to a fairly comfortable margin again. But again, provided it's legal, I don't have any problem. But again, I still want that capital fund to fund every bit as much, if not more, than what the taxpayers of Carroll County do.
When we had the discussion about the capital fund, there was some discussion, who should the cash rent go to? Should it go to the county and we give it back, or should they keep it and ask us for a lot less money in the future? And that's the way it ended up. They're going to keep the income off of it. And they did not agree at the time when we had the discussion that they should never again come to us for money. They wouldn't say that, and I remember that quite clearly.
Sure.
But the idea behind it was that it should be much less frequent and much smaller amounts, because they had a unique source of income that they were able to manage, and so their request to us for contribution should be quite infrequent and quite minimal. And as far as a loan, yeah, absolutely, Marty, check it out and see if we can do it. And in addition to that, I would say the loan would not necessarily have to be from us either. They could get the loan privately and repay it with their capital funds or their income as well. That's another option. So, anyhow, I think we're all kind of thinking a little bit of maybe a loan grant combination or something. Is that kind of the general consensus? And
Yeah, I have no problem with that. You're right in that conversation. That was set up that they wouldn't be coming to us that often. And you're right, they did not agree that they would never come to us, but.
they did not. They had, I would.
I'm sure they wouldn't do
If
that.
they had, I would. If they had, I would have that documented and bring it up. But they did not. That's the way it was. Okay.
Yeah.
I guess we need a dollar
We're not gonna be able
amount.
to do anything till more till tomorrow, are we, with that?
No.
Well,
not
we
till it's
can. I mean, there's nothing that,
Yeah, but as far as the dollar amount, we don't even have a range. I mean, we need a range of the bids just to
Yeah.
have base our
if
decision
for,
on.
if for some reason those bids would come in freakishly low, I wouldn't want to overcommit either, so. I mean, I'm okay with not making a commitment today.
I'd say wait till tomorrow.
We can have a
Yeah,
better
yeah,
discussion
but I
on that
mean, we
tomorrow.
could.
Yeah.
I agree, Dean. The discussion will be much better tomorrow when we have some
Yeah.
Yeah, something to base it off of.
range of figures to work with.
Before I lose the train of thought here, do you have the revenues for the ICP figured back in?
Yeah, that's what it was.
40,000.
It'll be significantly more next year, because we were going off of 1/114 values.
Yeah,
and it
you're
was
behind.
done.
Okay.
And the incremental increase for the wind turbines is in there?
I'm assuming it is, that's what Brian gave me.
Okay.
I did the wind turbines when I did the fire protection for all the fire districts.
Okay.
And I noticed an increase, so I'm assuming that it's all in there.
Yeah.
Just- I didn't go
And
turbine to turbine, but.
I think the new wind turbines in the first 5 years are tax-free, so that's down the road a
The
ways.
used down there won't be on there yet.
That'll be 4 more years. Okay.
Not the first 5 years, the first year. Goes up 5% each year.
I think it's 5 years.
Oh, I think it's 5 years tax-free, and then it goes up 5% to a maximum of 7.
That's the
Pretty sure.
information I was.
That's how these were, if these are the same.
First 5 years is 0?
That's as I recall. I'm not gonna bet my life on it, but I think so.
I think it's 1 year.
I just refiled that the other day, and I'll look that up after the meeting, Dean. I think it is 5 years free, and then it goes incremental, like, up 5 for several years,
To a maximum of 35, and then
it stops, yeah. I'll look that up after the meeting.
I'm not gonna bet your life on it.
Okay, any other ones?
Hope you are.
Well, I'm thinking it's 35
We can
after
use
7
it.
years.
I know we have some people that have meetings at noon. Do we want to do committee reports and then pick up with where we left off tomorrow, or do we want to keep going?
We can go for a little bit, yeah.
We can go through
All right,
it.
Go to
next
about
one I
11:10.
have then is the Board of Health.
We've kinda talked about that one, haven't we?
We have, and I will just make that adjustment to the salaries for the mileage and lower the overall asking for mileage on hers.
Right.
Yep.
Would you mind, would it be asking you too much to get one more revision of that, so I can just keep it for my file? When you,
What
For
I
the
thought I'd
viewer.
do is, when this was all said and done, get everybody a copy of
the final?
everything together.
Okay.
It is a little easier to look at when you're looking for,
Thank you.
Looking for stuff?
it's
Yeah.
quite a few pages, but if we're pretty much done making changes, it will be.
Thank you.
General assistance, I don't know if there's really anything.
Nothing there.
Medical examiner.
Nothing there.
Jail. The next one I would have would be the ambulance. Unless we want to do another one.
Well,
The ambulance over.
Let's do the ambulance, yeah.
well, the biggie, of course, is, the capital fund contribution. Gotta find out where the final is.
Did you all get my sheet that showed the correction for the overtime?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. We've got that fixed, so moving forward, it will be distributing that correctly.
I don't know, does everybody have this one?
Yeah, the most
Okay,
recent one.
with the handwritten.
Yep.
Okay.
What day was on that last one?
Well, it says period ending 2/28, but I got mine on 2/10.
The bottom left.
Oh,
bottom
209, yeah,
Yep.
bottom line, yep, 209.
All right.
Yeah, that was in the
Um,
packet.
Should- It was.
Yep.
Yeah, here are some of the additional numbers that kind of stand out for me is back again to the overtime is, again, Pat is claiming that he's, been successful in reducing some of those numbers, and yet he's still asking for $60,000 when I do agree that it was $60,000 at the end of 14, but it hasn't been near that, so far this year. I just, seeing what you all thought about, again, reducing that number. His number shows that the year-to-date activity shows that he has been successful in reducing his overtime, but once again, he's still asking for $60,000. The next one would be fuels. Just about every department has reduced their fuel request there. That one has been reduced, but again, if you just kind of take a look at its history, it was $29,000 2 years ago, $25,000 a year ago, and it's running less than $25,000 this year. Employee mileage is another one that I think that could be adjusted. Building maintenance and repair, I still never got a satisfactory answer as far as what is actually being planned for down there. It was noticeably high this year, but we know why, is we did so much of that water mitigation work. I think that's a line item that could be reduced. And then that takes us to the final big two, which would be the motor vehicle and the cots and monitors. How does everybody else feel about those items?
Well, he's got that in a car too. Has he got like 30 in there?
I didn't see where he had a note for a car, but I think he's dropped that. He's got $80,000 going to motor vehicle, going to the cap account for a new ambulance, for that rotation,
2-year
every 2
rotation.
years, yeah.
Well, what is his other equipment? Is that it, cots and stuff? then?
Yes.
Cots and
yes,
monitors,
mhm.
and heart monitors.
Yeah, because he'll update those at the same time that you purchase the new ambulance.
His discussion was to do like a new ambulance and then the next rotation do a remount. Has he decided on that for sure?
He kind of made that comment the other day.
That he might consider doing that, but, as of the ambulance meeting, I mean, they were still, very passionate about keeping it in place the way it was, so.
Yeah, with alternates between new and rebuilt.
Mm-hmm.
Remount is $36,000 less than new. Could alternate between new and remount.
We'll bring Patrick in tomorrow and have some discussion on it again.
He's gonna stand firm. I mean, he's got the support of the advisory board.
Yeah.
I liken the, the advisory board similar to the VA commission.
That is, yeah, yes.
So Mark, on his, you basically, the ambulance thing is your biggest concern, or what else you got?
Well, I just went down those line items. I think the overtime pay is perhaps overstated. I think fuels is overstated. I think employee mileage is overstated. Building maintenance and repair. And then we'd get to the ambulance and cots.
Well, I think that's one we need to have him come in, just like the rest. I think we need to revisit all those things with him. Have him come in.
I mean, does everybody agree? Or am I the lone wolf in that?
No, I think there's some of that stuff we need to look at.
I think it's a difficult decision for us, Mark. I know you're adamant with the 3-year rotation, and I know the advisory board feels the same way about a 2-year rotation. Maybe if they would do an alternate between new and rebuilt, it'd be a good compromise there a little bit. Not that I'm compromising, but it wouldn't be such a big jump. I'm not sure where that figure would be if they did that.
And I tend to agree with you. I kind of like that, because we kind of, the last time he was up there, kind of like he leaned that way.
Because the difference between the alternate, or between the new and the remount was about $37,000.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had written $36,000, but
Yeah.
this $80,000 in there, Mark, is that for new everything every 2 years as opposed to the alternate with alternating between new and used?
No, that,
Or new and remount, I meant.
I think that the 80,000 has been in there from the very get-go.
Yeah.
And that was when he was considering
Okay.
new, every 2
Right.
years.
Mhm.
Right. I would like to, so if he goes to $36,000 less, that cut it down to 60,000. I don't know. I need to know what that difference that would make on that $80,000 figure. Because I think he was buying into the idea of alternating as well with new and remounts.
And again, that still includes, the cots and the monitors.
Hard monitors.
Yeah. I would like to visit him more on that, I think, myself.
It quote says, remounts would be great if we ran them 5 or 6 years and traded them in, but to expect them to run 15 years or longer is unrealistic.
But didn't
With the
his guy-
2-year, I'm sorry,
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say that, with a 2-year rotation, we'll get the most usage from these vehicles while maintaining some trade value. So he's believing we can trade these in rather than get them down to the end of life, which would be, we've gotten $3,500 for some of these, where we've traditionally been getting all of the good out of them. They end up in Templeton, whereas he's planning to trade these things in.
So they have some value at the end of that.
But, after his last discussion here, he kind of changed his tune a little bit after visiting the vendor that day, those remounts would last longer.
When was your last ambulance meeting, Mark?
Just Tuesday, this
Tuesday,
past Tuesday, and I'll
afternoon.
report on it here when, yeah.
Okay. Did that get brought up, the alternate between new and remount? Get
No.
brought up?
Mm-mm.
It kind of sounded that way here that day.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
Because he had a different, from what the information he provided, he had a little different song on them remounts, I thought.
Let's have him in again.
Bring him back for tomorrow.
Did you want any discussion on DHS's budget?
No.
Not really
No.
any change.
It's actually down.
Yeah, it's pretty much set.
I thought it would look pretty good. Environmental health and sanitarian.
Yeah, I didn't have anything there. I looked at that one closely again, and I didn't.
I don't have anything there.
General services.
Same thing.
Courthouse. Carl's data processing.
Well, other than Tyler.
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
That's a given.
What are you gonna do there, Mark?
I don't know, I've been down that path so many times, and, you know, trying to get ISAC behind me was the wrong idea. They're a gold sponsor.
Mm-hmm.
They know what they're doing there.
I wonder how they're affording their sponsorship. I'd love to. If somebody has any ideas, I'd be glad to raise the flag there. Get 2 games in the state.
But I think it's that way with a lot of things anymore.
We're not alone.
Yeah,
It's
it's a
unfortunate.
fleece, but,
Supplemental, I won't really go through. I mean, the auditor, the elections are out of there. I don't know if anybody had questions on
Nope.
that. And we got Ivers and Bike coming out there for sheriff, attorney, ambulance. Case management.
that's one we need to visit a little bit about.
Yeah, we do.
We got that salary there.
This is the one with,
With Jean. Yeah, the region was picking up 25% of her salary. They will no longer be doing so. So we either put that on the back of the Carroll County taxpayers, or else we cut it to 3/4 time. That's our only choices.
Just be easier with that one.
I think it's gonna be easier if I give you guys a copy like this.
That's just kidding.
The only comment I'll make on this, because I'm on a roll, is, you know, this is a very similar situation to what we had in environmental about 4 years ago when we lost the food program. And, you know, those positions and salaries stayed the same. You know, we just absorbed the balance of that. I say we, the taxpayers did.
is she assuming more roles and helping out different parties though? Because-
Well, you know, they gave us examples where, you know, she took on, you know, like the newsletter and the brochure tasks.
Part of the problem with all of her increases, it's, if you remember the difference between indirect cost and direct cost, it's all indirect cost. If it had been direct cost, it would have been worked into the formula and we'd have gotten some reimbursement for it, but it is not. And we tried to see if some of her salary or duties could be shifted to that, and she just doesn't have the, I guess, qualifications to do that. You gotta have certain qualifications to be a case manager, so the opportunity to shift her into the direct cost category is not doable at this point. In the future, if we had a future employee, it would make a lot of sense to have someone who'd be qualified as a case manager, and then we could
Fall back on it.
work it both ways. That we cannot do that with Jean. But yeah, it's exactly what the situation is. Going to 75% to 100%, and that also is percentage of insurance and everything else. I don't know, the only, I don't know what to say about it, other than maybe her taking over some things like the newsletter will let Justin and the other
Angela.
case managers to handle a little bit heavier caseloads and not hire an additional case manager, which they aren't intending on doing,
One, it isn't like some that don't have a lot of caseloads anymore. Some that have pretty high caseloads compared to what we used to figure as a norm.
No, we had reductions because of,
But aren't they in like the 20s and something like that?
yeah, yeah.
And I think one time they were talking 14, 15 was what they try to shoot for. Am I right, Neil?
I think their caseloads are in the 30s right now.
It's averaging around 24. Well, you got to remember, the two case managers have a higher caseload than the case manager supervisors, considerably more.
Yes. I don't know what the wishes of the board is on that.
I don't know if it's one of those things where we're kind of in the infancy of this thing with the whole mental health thing, and who knows where it's gonna go, that's the thing.
I also got a copy of an email where Justin and Angela wanted to shift a small percentage of some of the office expense over to the region, and Dawn was kind of balking on that, saying, hey, how can we have any expense at all? We don't have an office there. And their idea is to shift a little bit of that office expense because of the work that they do for the region there. So I don't know where that's gonna end up, but she copied me and actually addressed it to Justin and said, hey, well, justify what your request.
Well, Rosie does, doesn't she? I mean, doesn't Rosie do quite a little, she's half paid by the region.
Yeah, she would do some.
So then wouldn't there be a little bit of office expense over there?
I believe so. I hope that's what Justin's response is.
Okay.
I didn't see his response.
It's hard for me to comment on this. I'm not, don't know that much about her, or it's difficult for me to comment on it. Except that I don't like this. Correct?
Yeah, I mean, it's, you know, you know, we make a decision, a business decision, to have county-run case management. You know, we could opt not to do that. There's many counties, about half and half, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
We believe, obviously, Carroll County has a rich tradition in its mental health, and that goes along with case management, and we made, you know, significant investments through the decades in order to support our constituents that need it. But, you know, and when it becomes, you know, fiscally more challenging to do so, you know, we owe it to our taxpayers too to perhaps consider their end of it too. We think we get a better product with county-run case management, and I'll stand by that. You get local access, local control, local, and for so many of these consumers, having that local sameness has significant value. The surveys generally come back and reflect that too, you know, consumer
Sure.
satisfaction surveys. So, this position is administrative. It's not at all where the rubber meets the road in terms of actual case management. But it's a support position so that those people can provide, you know, the product in which they do, the service in which they do.
But doesn't Lisa come over and spend time in this office?
Not anymore.
Nobody?
Mm-mm.
They do it all from,
Yep,
they don't follow up on these people or nothing?
no. She has no routine schedule back in Carroll whatsoever.
Well, I would approve this, but quite reluctantly. And if we do, I think we need to continue to look at ways to shift the indirect cost to direct cost and get some reimbursement, or shift more work 2 Rosie, or 2 Jean. And if anything comes back from the region, that's who should handle it. I'm reluctant to do it. It's a $10,000 question. $10,643 question, I guess. So-
And, you know, Tim, we don't know where we're at with this thing.
That's what my comments. A year down the road, we'd be back on the same page we were at, and then we gotta bring it back.
But it's board-
It's no fault through Gene.
No, it isn't.
No,
It's
not
fault.
at all. No,
No
I'm
fault, Jeans.
Certainly
She's an
not
excellent employee.
indicating that at all.
I say that's the way it is for now. I agree with you, Neil.
And I'll readily admit this decision is made on a lot more than just a dollars and cents that we're talking about.
Mental health, I don't know, other than county contribution to the region.
Yeah, can't argue that one much.
No, that's what it
Given.
is. That's what it is. We do have.
And this budget doesn't show any levy to that effect
This is-
whatsoever. Yep.
There is, in Department 63 in mental health, we do have half of Rosie's salary, IFRS, and insurance that we get reimbursed. So, we talked about the sheriff. Secondary roads.
Yeah, boy, that's a hard one for me. It is every year. So-
If you get a chance, you could take a look at his reserves, and I don't know if that's where they're usually are, or it seems like a lot.
Yeah, they fluctuate season to season with construction.
Yeah.
The other ones are like county forfeiture, attorney forfeiture fund, REAP, records management, and then the capital projects. So I don't know if there's any of those that you wanna.
Secondary
go over.
roads,
They aren't really levied. Nice, but-
secondary roads is actually down past 2 years.
You know, it seems like a lot when you look at them compared to the others, but that would make sense that you would hold on to money in there in case those projects.
It's our largest budget, and so thus it should have
Sure.
a pretty substantial reserve. But I appreciate you bringing that up. The thought had occurred to me too.
I want to speak well of our history in secondary roads. We've seen a lot of statistics lately on how many counties have incurred a lot of debt in their secondary road department. And maybe got something accomplished on that day, but they're a little bit handcuffed in the future because they need to dedicate so much of their income to servicing debt, pay off bonds and stuff. And
Mhm.
we've done a pay-as-you-go process, and it's really worked well for us.
I do have a question about it, though, and I don't know why I'm asking such a beginner question here, but I didn't realize that we were, part of that was out of the general fund. And that's,
Sheet.
Due
It's like 200
to-
some thousand.
yeah.
Because.
Is there an underlying requirement for that?
It's taking the maximum levy.
Yeah, what is it?
I don't have.
Maximum
the
levy
sheet.
of both?
Yeah, on both.
Right.
And it must be based upon roads and.
It's the
I
idea
have no
that
idea.
the general public traffic.
Is still gonna use,
travels
still gonna
across the
use those
town.
roads whether they use them or not?
Yeah, whether they go from, Mark Beardmore's gonna drive from Carroll to Glidden, or no, let's say he's gonna drive from Carroll to Dedham, he's gonna take Olympic Avenue.
Right,
That's the idea behind it.
okay. Thanks.
Is that a simple way
Mhm.
to explain it?
Yep, for a simple mind.
At the end of the day, and Courtney and I talked about this, our end-of-year predicted balance with this, as it is so far on the general basic, is $913,000, which is somewhat less than it's been. According to our charting with everything, with our, what we need to carry forward, yes, it's less, but it's adequate. I'm not afraid of it at all.
The reserve?
Right.
Your-
Right.
The supplemental?
The general basic.
Oh, the general, how do you feel about the supplemental?
Well, that's something we want to keep quite low because you can't move it anywhere.
Yeah.
And, yeah, that looks very workable as well. Yeah, I'm okay with it. I just want to say that we do need to note that it is a reduction.
Well, and again, we're continuing down this path of deficit spending.
To some extent, absolutely.
And, eventually, we're gonna meet our maker. We know we're gonna do it in mental health.
Yep,
No way
absolutely.
around that
Let's
one.
just make sure we don't do it like City of Audubon is.
Yeah, I think that's important to note that, it's one more year off for mental health. Next year will be about 80% of the year off. And then there will be a slight levy for next year, 17. But, yeah, we continue, I'm good with reducing these reserves like we are, but once again, for future boards.
And I think we've always made a comment, we've been cutting back here, but there's a day of reckoning coming.
Yeah, and the only way to keep that reckoning from coming is to cut expenses.
But I mean, particularly, especially mental health.
Okay.
I will make the changes that we talked about and get a hold of treasurer, sheriff, recorder, and the ambulance director. Is there anybody else you want to talk to?
If you do make a note when you contact our ambulance director, Pat, I would like some figures on the alternate between getting new and remounts, so I know what the dollar difference is there. I have a little trouble figuring that with the information I had.
And Dean, you'll get the email from Jason on the bids
And
today.
as soon as I'll pass them in, as soon as I get them
Okay.
to you guys. Rest of the board.
Yeah, just send it to Courtney and she'll disperse it.
Okay.
I'll tell you why later.
Okay. With that, we'll move down to committee reports. You want to start out, Neil?
Sure, I'd be glad to.
Got a meeting at noon?
Okay, I'll be brief. First, we had our, well, I won't take these in order, the legislative forum, which was Saturday. Just a few things I want to talk about is the tax legislation. They were hard to get pretty specific. In fact, I got the wrong one here. Yeah, the legislative forum. In fact, because even at the DOT meeting, Trombino, who's the DOT director, he said he's only got a 50-50 chance of passing. And one thing important our legislature's brought up is Mike Gronstall, who controls the Senate, said if they can't get the votes to pass it, he's not going to bring it up. That's just the way he's going. It's not, doesn't want to bring up anything that won't pass. So that's the gas tax thing. Otherwise, it's looking at a straightforward 10% RUTF. Brian Best said he submitted a bill that would increase tuition tax credits, $250 and $500. And Mark Sigabart made a comment on what's called Rule 42. It's when they set the rules for the years, and they want to change it so that if a draft bill had 26 votes, the majority of the Senate, that it would automatically go to the full Senate. They did not pass that, even though it had been that way in the past. So that was the legislative forum. At the, and I was pleased we had 4 of our supervisors, I believe, were there, and also there were 4 of us at the state supervisors meeting. I just want to mention that because I think that our board, we all can't make it to every meeting, but overall, we all have very good attendance at different things. First, we heard from Katie, who's the Chief Justice, and he talked about guidelines for court facility. And it was the same information that basically Gene had gotten to us earlier. And anyhow, I thought he might throw in something different, but he really didn't. So it's actually good because give us pretty good map as to where to go. Bill Heckrath talked. He's our legislative affairs person and lobbyist. He mentioned on the Freedom of Information, a lot of entities are out just data mining. They want an extremely large information from courthouses because they're public records. They've also been requesting to have them in a certain format, which is quite expensive to do, and the point is, yeah, we'll provide the information, but want to get legislation that makes it clear that we don't have to switch over to your software and your format unless you pay the cost of doing that. Gas tax, talked about that already. Governor was there, he made a comment about our partnership we need with the state in mental health, and that kind of flew in the face a little bit of what's happening with DHS trying to dump the BI and DD people on us. Otherwise, the governor, I thought he was quite up to date and was a very good contribution. And on the gas tax, I guess one other thing that was brought up there, it's basically the border counties that are against it, because you raise your price of gas, they're going to go down across the border to get it. They also had talked a lot about a program, Smart Connections, that they were promoting. It's April 30th in Johnson. It's all about cybersecurity and that type of thing. And they also gave each of us a manual for county supervisors, which I'm going to keep mine in my drawer here. Anybody's welcome to it if you didn't get one. I thought I had a lot of good information in it. I want to remind people that tonight from 5 to 7:30 is the Main Street Manning Open House. And finally, I know we had a lot of discussion here earlier about Rock Island, Clay Line, and there's been some pretty dicey, long, detailed information, editorials in my farm magazines where some farmers really object to this going across their land. And what the Rock Island Clean Line is trying to do is get franchise status from the Iowa Utilities Board, which will give them the ability to eminent domain. And so I've read several of these, and I think some of the farmers who would be concerned or overly concerned about what problems it would cause, but it's quite a controversy, and maybe you should be careful what you wish for, because if it was going through us, we'd be right in the middle of it all. Okay, meeting legislative forum, Rock Island. That's it. Those are my committee reports for this week.
Okay, Dean?
Tuesday, I had a meeting with CADC. It was just the Access Washington group. We've got the dates set for June 15th and 16th for that out in DC, and we're starting to get that put together. So if you have any topics that you want us to bring up, let me know. Neil basically covered a statewide supervisors thing. I will say that I think that one thing about Chief Justice Cady, I think there was not only the courthouse security was brought up, but there was a lot of other issues that we had a little dialogue amongst each other that I thought was good. And then he admitted that we need to do this more often. And then, of course, on the night before, I had the executive board meeting, and we're setting up the spring school meeting topics, and we're having a little bit of an issue right now. We're getting close to the press, but so we had one person that ain't gonna fill in, so we're trying to fill that in yet quick. That and the legislative forum, and that Neil basically covered that, so that's about it.
I attended the Alice thing here on Tuesday, and I found that to be very beneficial. I think there's a lot more we can do with this courthouse security. Not big things, but and Neil covered pretty much the state supervisors meeting there as well. I talked to several supervisors. I know one supervisor from Davis County said that they were going to have to take one of their paved roads and turn it to blacktop, or turn it to gravel, simply because they could not afford to keep it up anymore. I thought that was an interesting comment. I talked to Mr. Heckworth afterwards about an issue that I had with the broadband, and I think I got a committee appointment when I did that, so we'll see how that goes. But I thought there was a lot of good dialogue through the whole meeting, back and forth with all the speakers. I had a couple questions that got answered, not the way I wanted them, but it was interesting. I thought it was a very beneficial meeting.
I'm going to add one thing. You mentioned Davis County. I know those guys there, and they have a tremendous amount of their property that has gone into the forest reserve because people buy that for recreational land and it gets taken off tax rolls. So that has cut their income down somewhat.
I did ask Director Trombino about the heavy use of our county roads, or specifically almost our gravel roads. And I asked him, what are we going to do about all these semis that hauling grain and hauling feed, hauling livestock, and then our manure spreaders now that are hauling 40 ton on these roads, 3 triple axle. And I don't know what you guys got from it, but he was very vague, and he said, well, he basically said the corporate farms are going to get bigger, and they're not going to use as many roads. They're going to be more direct paths. Isn't that what you got from it? So we're not going to have to maintain all those roads in the future. We're just going to close them up. I thought that was very futuristic. It's probably not going to be happening in my lifetime, but we're going to have some issues with these going down the road, and we didn't get much help there, I didn't think, so. That's what I had.
Thanks, Steve. Mark?
I'll keep it really brief, just at essence of time here. Tuesday was the ambulance board meeting. Items of matter of business was we sent $12,970 to the bridge, $10,134 to collections. That seems to be being managed, I think, quite well. And a lot of the conversation that day had to do with Manning requesting an increase in rent down there. They want to see more reimbursements go back to the city of Manning. So far, the advisory board is quite congruent on that would not be necessary. There's some concerns being raised about, remember this happened about a year or so ago, and then we had some gals from the hospital pick up and help quite a little bit, but of it maintaining its paramedic status. And just so you know, Coon Rapids is EMT status. Breda is the only other satellite paramedic status besides Manning. It's almost surreal that these two issues seem to be going hand in hand, and we wouldn't want Manning to deny their request just because the service level may not be what we desire, but it does kind of seem to feed itself off of one another. So it was a 2-hour meeting last Tuesday night, and a lot of it centered around the budget too, but very passionate about this kind of issue here as well. A budget update through 58% of the budget year gone. Expenditures are at 56% of projection, and revenue is at 67% projection. So that part's good. I think that pretty well. If there's anything more on that, I'll fill you in, particularly the Manning situation. And then I met with the case manager supervisors twice last week about staffing issue there, and I think this came from the most recent consumer report, the consumer survey, and consumers seem to be satisfied. There's some concerns raised among a couple of providers, and I think this situation will handle itself. If not, we'll probably ask them to come to the full board for a further consideration on this. But again, I met with them twice last week. Legislative forum on Saturday, and then last night, we had child care board meeting, but in essence of time, I'll save that for just next Monday.
Had a fairly busy week last week. First meeting I had was Monday night, was Wesco. The main focus there was the makeup of the board with the Rolling Hills region. We're still kicking that around yet, but it's kind of early in the stages there to do anything there yet. The other thing we talked about is there's a bake shop uptown that's by the Donna Reed Theater, and that is closed up, and they approached us about renting the building and then moving the Wesco Bake Shop up there. So we are gonna move forward with that, and basically what we're gonna do is, all the equipment and everything is there. It'll be a $250 a month lease, and then the focus there is to get the people out of the bake shop in Wesco and kind of get them out in the community and work it in the bake shop uptown. So that was the main focus there. Went to the Alice training Tuesday morning. It was an interesting session. Then also on Tuesday morning had the solid waste board meeting. Talked a little bit about information on compaction and density at the landfill, where Mary's kind of checking in with Geologic and then Caterpillar, two vendors, for putting a GPS system on the trash compactors. And basically what we're trying to do there is get the efficiency of getting more compaction and just basically an efficiency, so we can in time accomplish maybe extending the life of the cell, possibly a year to a year and a half. So we're kind of looking into that. Mary also worked with IMWCA on the safety audit programs and the return to work policy. We're in the process of updating that. And then on the construction project, Steiger has pulled out due to weather, and he'll be back probably sometime in March to start up on the new cell again. So hopefully by midsummer we'll be completed with that project. Then on Thursday, or let's see here, yeah, Thursday we had Region 12, and basically the first thing of contention there was the salary range. We went through all the employees, and then went through the salary ranges for all the employees of Region 12. And then the second item was to consider housing board appointment. We had a person from Guthrie Center resign, so we appointed Carmen Atkinson from Panora to take over that position. And on the executive director's report, we talked a little bit about some training seminars that are coming up. Kathy Pauley and Beth Winquist are going to be going to WIOA Administrators Conference in California in early April. And then also in July, there's an OMB circular coming to Ames, and they'll be going to that one also. Talked a little bit about the Western Iowa Advantage meeting that we usually have in the spring every year. That's set for April 7th in Templeton Community Center. So any one of the Board of Supervisors is welcome to attend that if they want to. You just have to RSVP. The other thing we talked a little bit is about the white apartments over in Greene County. Went over with Rick to the apartments on Wednesday and looked at those. Basically with this, we were looking at it as possibly a rehab project. We got there and looked at it, and I think it's one of those buildings hasn't been occupied since 2008. There's some roof leak problems. It's got kind of a pretty much flat roof on it. So we kind of discussed that at the meeting, and we decided not to move forward with that rehab project. It's going to be more than what we can work with, I think. So we're going to kind of shy away from that one. Then on local assistance, Chris gave us an update there. He talked about the housing program in the housing repairs. They've got $190,000 for Audubon, Guthrie, and then the associate member cities of Adel, Linden, Minburn, Perry, and Redfield. And those are for housing repairs, and that pertains to furnaces, roofs, and electrical. He is also working on the Casey City Code and updating their city code, and then also with the town of Redfield to update their county city zoning ordinance. And then he talked a little bit about the tree workshops. This is basically working with the different cities and counties. There is going to be a meeting here at Swan Lake Education Center in the 26th of May, and that's with the tree workshops. And kind of what triggered that was the Emerald Ash Borer product, or the progression of that. So they're just going to kind of work with that, but it's going to be widespread on all trees. So that's just the kind of thing to get the ball rolling with the tree programs. And then in transit, Tom Feldman kind of gave us an update there. Mike Rath is going to be going to a training session on air conditioning for vehicles and that on the 11th of March. And then there's a transportation summit in Marshalltown, the 14th of May. We have hired 2 new drivers for the Manning area. Mike Powers and Steve Page were handled there. We talked a little bit about our vehicle accidents. We had a run bad luck with vehicles. We had a 2010 minivan that was totaled out and on our January 12th, and so we're trying to get that vehicle replaced. And that was pretty much it for Region 12, and then went down Thursday for the statewide meeting. And then Dean, you mentioned a little bit about Trombino and his comments about the roads. It sounded like he's more interested in railroads than anybody who was in roads on that
Yeah.
meeting Tuesday or Thursday.
Really?
So it's going to be interesting where that goes. And kind of leading into that, there is a meeting coming up with Trombino, and it's going to be the 6th of March. I'll just pass this around if anyone's interested. They're looking for comments as far as the Highway 30 Coalition. So that's all I have.
The Region 12 salary, did you do was it a salary survey?
Basically,
Or
what
the-
we did is compared to other COGs in the state of Iowa.
Oh, it was just your internal, it wasn't
Internal.
countywide, or?
No,
Did
no.
they do raises that night, or?
We haven't done anything with
Okay.
raises yet. This is just a preliminary to get ideas for the raises. So we haven't done.
Got
anything.
a email from Jason. Apparent low bid for the trail project was Howry Construction with a bid of $508,568. DOT will have to review bids before awarding low bid but assuming the bids are all good, that's great news. There were 4 bids under 600,000 mark, which was where the engineer's opinion of the cost was.
600 was, yeah.
Yeah.
Hopefully, there are no surprises from the DOT, and that is our low bid. If anything else comes, you'll let me know.
Okay.
So there you go.
There we go.
Thank
We know
you.
where we're at.
508 what?
508, 568?
568. Okay.
Go.
Okay. Courtney, do you have anything?
I don't.
Okay, any comments from those in attendance? In order for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Gene said aye too.